Hello everyone, I'm Todd Harris. Welcome to one of the most beautiful spots in the entire world, Sonoma, California, home to the Napa Valley and the fertile wine country. It's also home to the Infineon Raceway, where today the Indycar Series marks another chapter in its 10-year history as it takes its first green flag on a natural terrain course. In April, the Indycar Series raced on the streets of St. Petersburg with Dan Weldon leading the Andretti Green juggernaut to a sweep of the top 4 positions. But St. Pete is a coast away, and Infineon needs to be attacked with an entirely different set of skills. At every corner, at every climb, at every braking point, the IndyCar drivers will be tested and retested. 1970 was the last time a major open-wheel race was contested here. The track has changed dramatically, but the challenge to master the perfect lap remains. And today, there will be 80 contested. To bring you up to speed, we send our colleagues out to track the top stories, and we start with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thanks, Todd. Last week, Dan Weldon dominated at a place known for its famous hill climb, Pikes Peak. Today, it's Infineon Raceway's turn to present a hill climb all its own. Now, I'm here in Turn 3A, which is a 16-story rise from the start-finish line far below. Very few racetracks in the world have this kind of elevation change. And throughout the afternoon, we're going to show you breathtaking views of some of the fastest laps ever turned here. Weldon is the current points leader, followed by Sam Hornish Jr. But right behind comes Kanan in third, Franchitti in fourth, and Herta in eighth. AGR's goal today is to repeat the 1 through 4 St. Pete finish, and they think they can sweep the championship. Up here, it's all about the climb. Down there, it's all about courage. Here's our expert in that category, Scott Goodyear.
Doc, I chose this section of the racetrack, this ultra-fast section between turn 7 and turn 10 that I'm going to call the Great Divide. You know, every natural terrain road course has a section, even for the veterans, where they have to put their foot down and hold on. And folks, this section right over my shoulder is exactly one of those, and one of the reasons I'm glad to be in the booth. Now, with no disrespect to Danica Patrick, this Great Divide divides the men and the boys, or the veterans and the balloonfoots. Now, which way back to the booth?
Well, Scott, they're all men and women in my book. You know, they've all been holding their breath now from turn 7. Now they enter the brake basin. This is where we're going to see a lot of passing happening. It's all straight line braking, and if you get a run on the car ahead of you, you can take the corner away. There's going to be a lot of action right here. Now, the telemetry will show us who has the best skill in the braking zone. Remember, sometimes you have to slow down to go faster. And Vince Welch, as for Dan Weldon, I'm not sure he knows where the brakes are. All this season, it's been all about the pedal on the right.
No doubt, Jamie. I'm in the last corner. We'll call it the equator because many of the teams and drivers will be equal coming in, but not coming out. In road racing, the most important corners are the ones that lead to the longest straightaways. And if you can put the hammer down between turn 12 and turn 2 here on this race course, you're going to have the chance to win this race here today. That said, one driver, a pre-race favorite, is going to have a little different battle. Dario Franchitti went off the course in qualifying, and he'll have to start from the back. He has been in position to win several races this season, but a variety of problems, whether it's mechanical, pit lane, or driver error, have caused him to throw up his hands in frustration and wonder what might have been. One thing we know for sure, as he attempts to charge from the back of the pack today, it'll be worth the price of admission.
The green flag is out and we are off and racing. Dan Weldon has just won the Indianapolis 500. 2005 IndyCar Series is off. And we welcome you to the beautiful Sonoma Valley for Firestone Race Day on a picture-perfect Sunday by the Bay. It is an absolutely gorgeous setting right here at Infineon Raceway, race number 14 of 17 as we get set to come down the home stretch on the IndyCar Series. It's the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix, the inaugural running. We are expecting a near capacity crowd, and why not? The weather is perfect, the scenery is spectacular, and we have some of the best drivers in the world taking to the course. Speaking of great drivers, the man that'll be starting on the pole is young Ryan Briscoe, and he's standing by with our Jamie Little.
Well, Todd, he could be, you know, we call him a rookie here in the IndyCar series, but reality is he's logged more than 10,000 road course miles over the last few years. He was a test driver in Formula One for Toyota, of course, and today that experience is paying off. Ryan, you're starting on the pole for the first time, but I have to ask you, you opted to start on the outside rather than the traditional inside line. Why?
Well, coming up through turn 1, it's a flat-out corner. I'll be on the inside for turn 2, which is the first braking zone, so hopefully I'll take that to my advantage and get a clean start. I've got Healy on my inside through 1, and you know, I've got a lot of faith that he's you know, a clean driver and everything, and just hope to get through the first lap. It's a very long race. We've both got good pace, and just look forward to getting right to the end and hopefully winning it.
Let's go back to St. Pete for a moment, shining moment, the only laps you've led in the series. We just saw you and Tony Kanaan came together with 8 laps to go. What did you learn that day about running up front with the veterans?
Yeah, I mean, competition's tight. You always got to watch out for what's coming up, even sometimes the unexpected. So, you know, that was my 3rd race in the season. I've come to know my rivals a bit more this year, and it's a great track. I've got good pace here. Just looking forward to it.
One of his rivals is Elio Castroneves, and he's with Vince Welch.
Elio starts 2nd today. Now, because Ryan Briscoe on the pole chose the outside line, Elio will start on the inside. It's been an eventful weekend for Elio. His home down in South Florida has been under siege by Hurricane Katrina. Is there an advantage or a disadvantage to now being on the inside of the line as compared to the outside of row 1?
I tell you, Vince, I mean, I was a little surprised, to be honest, for him to choose the outside. I do think it's a little bit of advantage for me. It might be something that we need to study in the middle of the corner, but you know, obviously you want to make sure you finish the race, and it's going to be a tough one.
Trying to get through turn 1 cleanly, and Elio's teammate Sam Hornish Jr. also a good qualifying effort. He goes off 5th today. Doc?
Well, thanks, Vince. You know, through preseason testing and pre-qualifying practice, Dario Franchitti established himself as one of the cars to beat for pole qualifying. But in pole qualifying yesterday, Dario Franchitti didn't go as planned. What happened?
We made a mistake. I actually tried braking a bit earlier. For whatever reason, as soon as I touched the brakes, the car swapped ends on me, and that was the end of it. So very disappointed, because I think the ArcX car was good for the pole.
That spin at the top of the hill puts you shotgun now on the field. The question is, how do you go from way back here to way up there in a hurry?
We've got 80 laps to do it. I think that's what we have to remember today. I'm not going to get anything by taking the wing off in the first lap. We've got to plan for the whole race and try and be in front at the end. But I'm just going to do my best. My guys are going to do our best and see what we can do.
Hey, thanks for your time. Good luck today. Now, Dario Franchitti may not want to hear this, but his bad luck starting back here may be a big break for all of you millions watching at home, because he just happens to be carrying an onboard camera here on the nose of his car. So everywhere Dario goes, you go with him. And Todd, I can't wait to see what Dario sees when the green flag waves here today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Doc. Great report. Well, his car owner, Mike Landretti, part of the Andretti Green team, a few nights ago, they had a nice little welcoming for the folks to the Sonoma Valley. The Andretti Winery, his father Mario owned it, and it was all for a good cause, raised a lot of money for the Mario Andretti charitable foundations. The Andretti Green drivers were there, including Marco Andretti. A great night in a beautiful setting. When we come back, much more from Infineon. Welcome back to Sonoma, California, race number 14 of the IndyCar Series. It's the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix, the inaugural running at this picture-perfect edifice to racing. And we welcome you once again high atop the race course. Todd Harris along with my colleague Scott Goodyear. Well, it is a road course. There's plenty of room, but a lot of desperate men at the front and the back of the pack, as Dr. Jerry Punch pointed out, Scotty. Temperatures and tempers are going to be thin.
And Todd, I'll tell you something. This is a different racetrack because we don't have walls. In the 10 years that we've actually been racing in the Indy Racing League, walls line both sides of the ovals. And also at St. Petersburg, a temporary street circuit, walls on both sides there. No walls here, so all the drivers are actually pushing the limit a little bit and extending themselves because there's no strings attached. There's no walls to hit now. And throughout practice, we've seen that the last couple of days where guys are actually going over the limit and starting to go off the race course in many instances.
Short tempers and no boundaries, a very dangerous combination. This was the practice. First off, Dan Weldon coming in, bumps right into his teammate. Then Sam Hornish Jr. just a little bit too hot coming over that hill. Thomas Schechter making the right-hand turn. Excuse me, it's Thomas Enke, your teammate, on the inside line. Then Scott Sharp just a little too much. He's off into the giggle weeds. Danica Patrick having a problem with our pole sitter, Ryan Briscoe. And this was very potentially dangerous with Vitor Meira dead in the middle of the track at 140 miles an hour. Thomas Scheckter comes across, but this is one that caught everyone's attention. The rookie, new to the series, I should say, Giorgio Pantano. It's got a little bit tricky, but the good news is for the Target Chip Ganassi team, this may be their best chance for a victory. They've got a guy in Ryan Briscoe on the top of the heap as the pole sitter, but for Chip Ganassi, it has not been a great year.
Not a great year ever since 2003 when they won the championship and they won the Indianapolis 500 in 2000, but not much luck since then. 39 races without a win, 24 crashed race cars, and millions of dollars worth of damage. But this could be the golden era here right now because they've got a road course driver who understands it, who is fast, who I think is capable of winning today.
Well, are they ready to step up the plate and knock one out? Let's find out from Chip Ganassi himself. He's standing by with our Jamie Little.
Well, Todd, with all those numbers and stats, it's easy to see Chip Ganassi's blood pressure and patience have certainly been tested this year. And Chip, you have a new face. We were talking about Giorgio Pantano in this race for the first time. And before this season, nobody really had heard about Ryan Briscoe. Where in the world do you find these drivers?
Well, Jamie, that's a good question. You know, we take our time and we look really on a worldwide market for drivers, especially in open wheel racing. Certainly in NASCAR, it's something different. But, you know, on a worldwide basis, there are a lot of great racing series and a lot of great drivers out there. And we're fortunate that Giorgio had an off weekend here, and he helped put Ryan on pole with all his input during the weekend and helped Scott out quite a bit, too. So we're pretty pumped up.
Will you guys take the win today?
We're sure going to try.
All right, Chip Ganassi going for the win. But now let's go to Vince Welch, who's with another hopeful team. They hope to make a breakthrough today. Vince?
With Bobby Rahal of Rahal Letterman, Buddy Rice starts 11th, Buddy Rice starts 6th, Vitor Meira 11th, and Danica Patrick 16th. What's the biggest challenge of this racetrack for your drivers today?
I think for all the drivers, it's going to be staying in the seat. This is by far the most, physically the most demanding race perhaps ever in this series. And so, you know, it's warm. This track, there's no place to take a breather. It's nothing but shifts and down, you know, and braking and what have you. So it's going to be tough.
You were around this course yesterday in a historic vehicle. How was that on you?
Oh, it was fun. It was good. You know, we only did 12 laps, which is about 2 more than old guys like me can do. So, but it was a gas, and you know, I got to drive a car that I dreamt about driving when I first started racing. So, a dream come true for me, and it was a lot of fun.
Rahal Letterman today. Let's go upstairs to Todd.
All right, thank you very much, Vince. There you see Danica Patrick, as you heard from Vince Welch. She will be starting in 16th place. We'll see how she does on this very challenging road course. Well, Buddy Rice and Danica Patrick took to the streets of San Francisco. Believe it or not, they turned these two loose on the streets. Rice-A-Roni may be the San Francisco treat, but this weekend in downtown San Francisco, it was Rice-A-Patrick at Ghirardelli Square. Danica Patrick and Buddy Rice taking it around the corners. We come back. The green flag comes out for the Argent Mortgage Indy from Grand Prix from Sonoma. 35 years ago, the Indycars visited what was then Sears Point International Raceway for the Golden State 150. Pole sitter Mark Donohue led the field to green, but would drop out shortly thereafter. Mario Andretti then took the lead, followed closely by Dan Gurney. Johnny Rutherford spun, didn't hit anything, and eventually finished 5th behind Gordon Johncock. Back up front, Gurney got by Mario for the lead, and the popular Californian driving a car he designed and built would take the win in the last Major League open wheel race ever held here. It was also the final IndyCar victory for Gurney, who would retire from competition at the end of the 1970 season. For third place finisher Al Unser, it was the start of a memorable year. 1 month later, he won the first of 4 Indy 500s and also captured the national championship. And a man who was racing here 35 years ago now becomes our Grand Marshal. We send it down to our PA announcer, Dave McClellan, for the start of this inaugural race.
Race fans, it's time for those famous words in motorsports. Here to give that command, welcome 4-time Indy 500 champion, Al Unser Sr.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
And that flyer over the C-130, the pilot's Lieutenant Commander John Spanner and Lieutenant Jess Bilsma at the helm. A great day of flying and a great day for driving. They always have great weather here, Scott. On a clear day, you can actually see the Golden Gate Bridge, which we are just 30 miles north of.
I'll tell you, all the drivers would love to have it just a little bit cooler, because you heard Bobby Rahal say it'll be the toughest race for these drivers ever in the history of this series because of the track terrain and the temperature expected to be almost 90 degrees here today, Todd.
The 21 drivers have taken to the course. Scott, let's go through this course description for the fans at home. It is a beast.
Todd, if you like roller coasters, you will love this racetrack. Going up through turn 1 underneath the bridge right now, almost 160 miles an hour, down a couple of gears, over a blind brow, and take the descent all the way down through turn 2, turn 3, going right now, and up through 3A. Back down a gear, back on the gas as hard as quickly as possible, and then come up to turn 4. You can see Tony Kanaan just ahead of us right there, riding along right now with Dario Franchitti going through turns 5, passing a slower car on the right-hand side, up over the blind brow in turn 6, and this is actually called the carousel. Back on the gas as quickly as possible, onto the old drag strip, transfer off the drag strip, down to the new turn 7, a double apex right-hand turn, a great braking area here, although going down from 160 miles an hour down to about 55. This double apex back on the gas, traction control will kick in here, up through these turns we call the S's, love this section, all the way up to about 155 miles an hour, no room for air here, coming down to the tricky turn number 9, a right-left-hand switchback. And then you have to get on the gas as quickly as possible, get yourself over the turn 10 towards turn 11, up through till 5th gear, and the most important turn on the track right now, this last one, to accelerate out to get up to the start line again. 80 laps around here, these guys will be dog tired.
Well, just to give you an idea of how many times they will be shifted, we did a bit of calculation, cracked out the abacus, and Scott, we're looking at over 3,000 shifts. That's 38 shifts roughly per 8 laps, and I've got to think taking care of the gearbox is going to be critical.
Jamie's down the pits with some information right now.
Well, Scott, one thing that we didn't mention on that course description is the very long and very narrow pit road. This is the same one the NASCAR guys use, despite the fact that we have a shorter turn 11. Now, the key here is to maintain a 60-mile-per-hour maximum speed limit. Some of the drivers can't do that successfully. You see how narrow it is here in the horseshoe. So time can be lost or gained here, and it's going to take a lot of patience on the driver's part. But that's not their only challenge here on pit road. For more on that, we go to Vince Welch.
That's right, Jamie. Another unique aspect of this pit lane is a separation between the teams at pit end, about a half a dozen teams, including the pole sitter of Target Chip Ganassi and Ryan Briscoe, and the rest of the teams along pit lane. I mean, a gap in the pit lane is not uncommon, but this is a 250-foot separation. Now, what does this mean? Well, there will be less commotion on the back end, less trouble to get into. But if a Target Ganassi car is leading this race during a late round of pit stops, then the rest of the field is going to have plenty of notification that that car is coming down pit lane. An opportunity for them to stop fueling and get out ahead of the leader. Just another way that this race could be determined on pit lane today. Doc?
Well, Vince, this unique pit road poses the ultimate challenge for the drivers at pit exit. It's the Indycar squeeze play, because it is 3 lanes wide back there, 2.5, 2 lanes wide, and only 1 lane wide as they zip out and spill out into traffic as the cars come by. Now, to be the first one off there, you've got to be the first one right here to this blend line. At 60 miles an hour, they're going to be racing to the blend line. Now, as they're racing and squeezing, Dan Weldon could be pitting right here. And as Dan Weldon is pitting, remember, he's the points leader. He has to avoid contact out there, but as they're squeezing in, he's got to make sure he doesn't get punted on pit road. So pit stops could be critical here today. Guys?
All right, thank you very much, Doc, and we thank you for watching the Firestone race day as they warm up the Firestone Firehawks. We are less than a lap away from going green. Scott, keys to winning.
Some great information from our group down the pit lane about pit stops, and that is actually #1 in the keys to the race today. I can tell you from driving, a lot of pressure on the driver and the crew because passing is so difficult here at this racetrack. Pit stops are paramount, as we've just heard. Item number 2, braking. All the passing will be done here in the braking zone without a doubt, and I'll also discuss throughout the race how braking can actually change the balance of the car going into the turn for these drivers. Number 3, we heard Bobby Rahal talk about the fitness, and that's absolutely what's going to go on here today. When you talk about all the shifts that we have per lap, Todd, that we're discussing, 80 laps around here, almost 90 degrees ambient, no time for rest. There's actually, the heart rate's going to be up at 160, 180 beats per minute. These drivers will be very, very tired.
Well, here are the drivers that will be running onboards for us today. Of course, number 27, Dario Franchitti. He'll be carrying that very interesting perspective right on the nose of the car, as Dr. Jerry Punch pointed out. Danica Patrick also running an onboard for us, so we'll get her perspective and her first visit here on the Open Raceway of Infineon. Of course, Thomas Schechter, the number 4 car. The 10 is the rookie, or somewhat rookie to this series, in Giorgio Pantano. 9 is Scott Dixon, his teammate, also a target, Chip Ganassi, and then the 26 of Dan Weldon. Well, it's the Sonoma Valley's turn to host the greatest drivers in the world at Infineon Raceway. And we will ride with Dario Franchitti as they make the big hairpin turn and bring it around. Stomp the grapes and mash the accelerator. The Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix is on.
Smart move by Ryan Briscoe, who wanted to be on the outside at the start. Takes the lead up into turn 1. Very different from what we had here before. Everybody seems to choose the inside line into turn 1, Todd, but very different by the target driver.
And you saw on the left side of your screen, that was Dario Franchitti, his onboard. We thought he may try to jump some drivers. He played it very cool, Scott. They're trying to kind of get in somewhat of a rhythm right now.
Have not been on the track until the final warm-up, which was yesterday afternoon. So no track activity today for all these drivers. When I used to drive these cars, I used to always like just to get in the car on Sunday morning, have an opportunity just to get the blood flowing again. See a couple of different lines going in here through the very wide turn 7. Very important turn to get some acceleration coming out there. And right now, Todd, Briscoe seems like he's got these guys covered.
Ryan Briscoe, the pole sitter, is your leader, followed by Castroneves, Kanan, Enge, Sam Hornish Jr., and Buddy Rice running in the top 6. And Sam Hornish, the number 6 car, has spun out. Scott, big surprise to you at the top of turn 7. You talked about warming the tires.
Here it's on the rev limiter right there. Either he's actually still has the rev limiter on the car, or the pit speed limit is actually still on. Going very slow. You can hear the engine vibrating with those sounds. Something is not correct with that, Todd.
33 is Ryan Briscoe, the rookie. He leads them through one more lap. Behind him is Castroneves, and Thomas Enge has moved up to 3rd place. Made a very daring pass on Tony Kanaan. There you see Enge, the number 2 car, the Rockstar Chevrolet, Kanaan, number 11. And I think that was the same situation we saw at the top of the show, where Enge came on the inside of his teammate Thomas Schechter. This time he gets it done clean on the 11 Kanaan.
Very aggressive driver. He's had a lot of experience on road course racing. We've talked about him running at Le Mans, winning his class over there. Was back at Le Mans earlier this year. A driver that has a huge amount of road course experience, but have been very impressed with his oval experience run so far this year.
Let's see what happened to Sam Hornish Jr. Look at that, just a little hot.
Little wide going actually into turn 7 on the outside. Maybe got on a little bit of a dust situation, but now he's actually stopped on the side of the track, probably with that rev limiter that might have kicked on or something of that nature.
So that will trigger our first yellow flag. And it's a full course yellow. Let the strategy begin in the pit stops if you're Dario Franchitti. But the ramifications for the points chase, the championship, Sam Hornish Jr., this is a complete disaster for him in 05.
Wasn't expected to maybe go out and win on the road course, Todd, but he certainly was expected to go out there and run strong like he did at St. Petersburg and just sort of chase the guys up in the points.
Vince, what do you know?
Well, Roger Penske communicating on the radio with Sam Hornish Jr. Obviously, you saw him on the track, has stopped and has brought out the full course yellow. At this point, having a bit of a gearbox problem, and they're going to just try to get it in, obviously early in the race, but they can't diagnose the problem from where they are out on the track. So first thing they want to do is get the car in, take a look at it, and at that point diagnose what's the problem and how they get it fixed. Can they get it fixed in time to get back out and be competitive?
How painful for Team Penske. Well, there you see the point standings coming into this race. Dan Weldon with a 97-point lead on Sam Hornish Jr. When I said it was a disaster in 05, my colleague I know is one of them that thought that Sam Hornish had a chance of tracking down Dan Weldon. And this really, if he can't get this thing back together, this is going to be difficult for him.
Todd, we were talking the other day, remember at lunch, that he has just improved so much on the road courses. It's really been great to see him actually do that after being an oval racer all his life.
And there you see it. To win the IndyCar Series, he had to place 2nd or better in the remaining races, and Weldon must finish 18th. Now, he hasn't done his part here, Scotty. Was that kind of pressure, do you think that can lead to an incident with Sam Hornish Jr.?
Always got to get the first lap under belt. Remember, we said that we did not warm up here this morning. You got to get a lap in, get some rhythm going, Todd.
Unfortunately for Sam Hornish Jr., he will be towed back to the pit stops. Just a quick update, Dario Franchitti has passed 7 cars. He's now in 14th. Can he make it more? Stick around for much more of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix after this. Welcome back to the wine country. We've had a yellow flag that was brought up by Sam Hornish Jr., and we quickly check in with our Dr. Jerry Punch.
And as you saw in side-by-side a moment ago, Thomas Schechter and Danica Patrick both opted to come down pit road. Let's see what Dario Franchitti's going to do. Now, Kyle Moore, you wanted an early yellow to bring Dario in, but you didn't come in. Why?
Yeah, that's just a few laps too early. I mean, we're only dumping 2.5, 3 gallons, and that's only a 2-lap advantage. What we need is a yellow around 8, and I think that's when we'll take it. Right now, we're just, he got a great start, and we can't put him in the back again already.
All right, now, by the way, Dario Franchitti gained 8 spots in 1 lap of green flag racing. Hope you're enjoying the ride there with the onboard camera on Dario Franchitti. Vince?
You can see Sam Hornish Jr.'s car, the team feverishly working to get the gears changed in the backside. We're going to poke in here and try to get a quick word with Roger Penske. Roger, any idea what caused the problem?
We're not sure. We think it might be in the gearbox. There was no drive. He just spun when he put it in the gear. We're trying to find out now.
Green flag is out on lap number 5 of the restart here at the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix from beautiful Sonoma Valley and Infineon Raceway. Your leader continues to be Ryan Briscoe, Elio Castroneves, and Thomas Inge, the top 3. And as Dr. Jerry Punch pointed out, Dario Franchitti is up to 13th. Danica Patrick remains mired in 18th place, but she has made a pit stop during that last yellow.
Impressive drive off the last turn coming up to the start, Todd, for Ryan Briscoe. You could see how he could get that power down coming out of the turn. Just 675 horsepower getting down to the wheels. Very impressive. He can really lurch forward as he did and really gain that quick distance there in short half a lap. Like I mentioned, very interesting to see how he'll be able to pull out a lead here. Only 2 or 3 spots to pass in this racetrack. That turn 7 that we just looked at. And here's the snaking section that we all love. You come up over that brow. Now, it's almost a little bit deceiving, the ups and downs of this racetrack and the differences in the altitude. But when you're in the race car, boy, what a ride this is.
Briscoe, Castroneves, and Engie, your top 3. The number 2 Rockstar Chevrolet driver out of the Czech Republic. They list him as a rookie, but on road courses, Scott, that's not really the case.
Really isn't. All that experience we mentioned with the road course driving, a guy that gets up to speed very quickly. And as I started to mention a moment ago, as you watch Sam Hornish now being pushed behind the wall, which means there's going to be some major work done to the car. Not allowed to do that in pit lane for obvious reasons, because the car is coming into pit. IRL rules are move the car behind the pit wall.
There's the 11 of Tony Kanaan, part of the Andretti Green team. He is in the hunt for the championship. He is behind Sam Hornish Jr., who we mentioned earlier, needed to finish 2nd or better in the remaining races and have Dan Weldon, our points leader, have terrible luck. And the roles have been reversed. It is Sam Hornish 2 laps in who has the terrible luck, having a mechanical problem, and Tony Kanaan up and running. Dan Weldon, by the way, our points leader, currently resides in 7th place.
Tony Kanaan looking just a little bit of a different line, trying to fill the mirrors of Thomas Engie, the number 2 Rockstar car just in front of him. Just coming into your frame right there. Every opportunity you get on a road course, you try and fill the mirrors to the left, to the right of the driver in front to make him start to wonder where exactly you're going to try your move.
The 30-year-old Kanaan is the defending IndyCar Series champion. Scotty, I think about Tony Kanaan and what he's been able to do with the body of his career, and I just think of the word versatility. Rarely do we go to a track where Tony Kanaan cannot adapt or perform well at any kind of surface, whether it's short track, road course, or super speedway.
Very adaptable driver with one of the best teams out there right now, Andretti Green Racing. A lot of Honda support. A lot of people call this the Honda factory team. And you know something? He's used everything to his advantage. Under braking, makes a great run on Engie going through 4, which we're headed to right now, Todd.
Speaking of champions, here is a former IndyCar Series champion, Scott Dixon, originally from New Zealand, currently sitting in 8th place, and we'll ride on board with him. He had some great practice laps, Scott. Beautiful lines. I mean, he's such an accomplished driver. is this the week that target Chip Ganassi? You know, Jamie Little talked to Chip. Is this the week they turn the tides and get the victory?
But standing out in the hill the very first practice here the other day, just to see the smoothness right now from Scott Dixon was very impressive. Now, on your left-hand side of the screen, watch him go for the gear shifts here. A lot of beating on the hand, not only with the shifter, Todd, but also the steering wheel. There you see our Firestone telemetry, the temperature staying right where he wants it. And there you get a good idea of the gears. And look how quick the downshift comes. The throttle drops down to just 7%, and then watch the speed come back up. All the way through the gears, and he shows how quickly you talked about that 3,800 shifts per the race here. Tom takes a beating. A lot of these guys have got into the car, putting a lot of tape on their hand to actually give them some comfort, make it almost like a little bit of an inside glove inside their fireproof glove, Todd. So it's Scott Dixon, number 9, sitting in 8th place right now, trying to find a way to the front of the field. Dan Weldon's also in the battle. Just in front of him, he currently sits in 7th place. But your leader is the rookie, the young Ryan Briscoe, the Australian native. He is leading the pack, being followed by Elio Castroneves, Thomas Engay, and Tony Kanaan. Buddy Rice, he sits in 5th place. On board with Dan Weldon, the points leader. How would you rate him as far as road course racing ability? Very smart. When he's got a car that can finish 3rd, he will finish 3rd. When he can get up to the front, he will certainly do that also. We saw him win earlier this year at St. Petersburg. You know, a man that sits back and has gained a lot of knowledge from the Andretti Green teammates that he has his last couple of years. As we get through the S's there, a little lift on the left-hand part of 8 through 8A, coming up through turn 9 now, down from about 150 miles an hour in race trim, and down through the right and left-hand turns. The leader continues to be the rookie from Australia, Ryan Briscoe, driving for the Target Chip Ganassi team. Can the young rookie stay out in front? We are going 80 grueling laps, a long way to go. Come back to the Sonoma Valley wine country when we return. Hey folks, just a reminder, join our colleagues Marty Reed and Mike Dunn next week. The NHRA Powerade Series moves on to Indianapolis for the Mac Tools U.S. Nationals. ESPN2 will have 3 days of coverage, beginning with qualifying on Saturday night at 1:30 a.m. Eastern. Sunday, tune in at noon at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And final elimination start Monday at noon Eastern. The Mac Tools U.S. Nationals is also available in high definition on ESPN2 HD. Call your cable operator or satellite provider today for more information. Log on to ESPN.com. We check in now with Vince Welch.
Sam Hornish's chances at the championship may be literally out the window here as we stand with Sam, and he keeps an eye on the rest of the action on the track. But initial indications were that it was maybe a gearbox, but you say no.
No, it's not the gearbox. We're not really sure what's wrong, but guys are going to split the car in 2 and see if it's the clutch or the input shaft. And really, you know, just a bad deal for the Marlboro Team Penske guys. Not exactly sure why it happened, but we'll have to check it out and see what happens.
At what point do you decide whether you go back out on the course or not?
I'm sure they'll work real hard trying to get it back together, you know. Halfway point in the race, you know, you're pretty much so, because you can't get by anybody that hasn't fallen out yet. So we'll have to wait and see.
Todd?
Thank you, Vince. Talk about pressure on those guys now, Scott. It becomes to them, incumbent on them to try to get him back in the race and salvage some points. Well, you know, if this was earlier in the year, as we ride along with Danica Patrick right now, headed up through 3 and 3A. Earlier in the year, Todd, then you'd come back and gain some points, but with only 3 races left to go after this event, very difficult to think that the championship is in his reach. Danica Patrick also looking for that elusive first victory. Also would like to claim the Rookie of the Year points, which does not look like she's going to be able to clinch it today. But Chicago or Watkins Glen, it'll be very interesting. What do you see? I mean, Danica's somewhat new to this course.
No time from behind. Yasukawa's 5 seconds plus back.
Great information coming from pit lane and the spotter that she has nobody behind her, so she can just concentrate on driving the car and looking forward to try and connect with the person that's up ahead, which is the yellow car, number 4 of Thomas Schechter. Listen to the throttle as she goes through, not completely on the gas all the way. Hard braking zone here. A quick right, a quick left. You want to get the throttle as quickly as possible, maybe a little sooner than that, and then get the power down to the ground. Every time you can get on the gas a little sooner, you gain a little bit more speed coming out of the turn. Wait a little longer going into the braking zones. Makes you just a little bit quicker going in, maybe a 10th here, 10th there. It all adds up, but here she goes up to turn 1 right now, across the start-finish line, through turn 1. About 4,000 pounds of downforce in the car right here, going up underneath that hill. As the track comes up to you, the car gets pressed into the hill, and then it goes light over the brow that we just had. through 2 and up through 3 here, and a quick right over through 3A and back down the hill, and that's just a lot of work, one lap at a time, Todd.
And we are turning 80. But Danica Patrick, 23 years of age, out of Roscoe, Illinois, she is somewhat of a fitness guru, so I don't think fitness is going to be a problem for her, but every driver said fitness will be a major issue. There you see the chase for Rookie of the Year. Danica Patrick right now has a lead of 10 points on Ryan Briscoe, who is your leader right now on course, and Briscoe has 4 of the 6 fastest laps, including the top 3. So you said at the top of the show, Scotty, Ryan Briscoe is covering everyone, and he's making it look easy.
He's in his element, Todd. Right now, he's so used to doing this from all his European road course background. This is actually how he feels the best. I asked him about the ovals. He says, you know I have a lot to learn. Every time I go out there, I think I've learned something. I try something a little bit more, and I find out something else. And you think of how many times he's put himself in harm's way and crashed the car, something that's not lost on Chip Ganassi. And this is why he's continuing to change drivers to look for actually the advantage. And Chip said the other day, not sure what I'm doing next year. Might change 1, 2, 3 drivers, but probably running at least 2 cars next year. And you know something, Todd? All those drivers are currently aware of that, and that puts a lot of pressure on them.
Dario Franchitti still trying to work his way up. As we talked about at the top of the show, he had a little incident where he had to be at the back of the pack to start. He moved up quickly, but Franchitti is currently sitting in 13th place, so they are definitely have to make something happen in the pit area or something like that, Scott, to get him up there, because I just don't know. What do you think? Is this track good enough for him, or is he good enough to make passes on this track?
Well, as I'm listening to the throttle right now, he's actually not getting on the throttle maybe as quickly as he did actually in qualifying. Now listen here, you want to be on the throttle now, already picking it up and getting around there. If you're going to make advantage on the car in front, you got to get off the turn quickly. You see how the car in front, Carpentier, is just starting to pull him a little bit off throttle application. He's just about found the level of the speed that he can get up through now. And if he wants to get to the front, he's going to have to do it through either pit strategy or make an improvement on the car. It doesn't seem that the car's working as well as it did for him the other day when he was a threat for pole.
With all due respect to the folks at Disneyland, this may be the world's greatest roller coaster ride as we ride on board with Dario Franchitti. Now, he hasn't passed anyone since the restart, and Franchitti remains in 13th place. And he's trying to track down Patrick Carpentier, who's no easy pass. Back to the front we go. There's number 11. Tony Kanaan, currently sitting in 3rd, with Thomas Enge in 2nd, as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, reigning series champion Tony Kanaan showing remarkable patience here in the early laps. Now, Kanaan not known for his patience at all at the beginning of the race, but Kim Green explained to Tony, you know, you can't win this race on a road course in the early laps, but you can't lose it in the early laps. If you can't make the pass, be content to drive your race, let the tire temperatures and pressures come up, and most importantly in all, you have got to get good fuel mileage. We've got to get to lap 25 or 26 to make this a 2-stop race. Tony Kanaan is showing a lot of patience here, riding in 4th spot early on. Let's check in with Vince.
Well, and Doc Kanaan is running right behind Tomasz Inge, and Tomasz Inge very comfortable here on the road course. He's had solid results on the ovals as well, maybe not indicative of the quality of runs they believed he had, but they think he is right at home on the road course. Right now, fuel consumption is prime on the mind of the Rockstar team. Tomasz Inge settling in, very comfortable with the race car, but keeping an eye on the fuel mileage, as are all the teams at this point.
All right, thank you, Vince. And Enge's best career finish last week at Pikes Peak, where he finished 6th, so he certainly has momentum in his corner. We'll step aside, pay some bills. You go side by side. Much more of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix from Sonoma after this. Ryan Briscoe, we call him a rookie, but he has a wealth of talent and ability. The young man out of Australia, originally from Sydney, now living in the States, is showing what he can do on a road course. He had the pole, and he is currently our leader. And between Briscoe and Castro Neves, they have turned the fastest laps on the course. We have a full course yellow in the 20 car. That is Ed Carpenter, part of the Vision Racing team. He has got a spinner right now, Scott, and obviously the engine is stalled, or he'd light it back up and spin it around. This is going to really change our strategy.
Well, coming right down towards turn 11, the last turn before you get back onto the front stretch. Let's have a look at it right now. Seems like he turns into the turn. The back end comes around either from throttle application a little bit too soon, maybe a little bit something on the course itself to bring the back end around, but the engine certainly stalled, Todd, as you mentioned. Now he's got to wait for assistance from the Delphi safety team, and once they push and get him going, then he can actually turn around and get back onto the racetrack.
That's going to be frustrating for Ed Carpenter, just sitting there and waiting for the safety crew to get him out of the way so they can light his engine up and get him back out running. Meanwhile, we'll check in with Jamie Little, who's with Chip Ganassi.
And Chip looks out to Ed Carpenter, who's sitting right in the middle of the course right now. Chip, so far so perfect for Ryan Briscoe. What is he saying on the radio?
Yeah, really not much, Jamie. I mean, he just settled into a pace he could run, and we were saving a little bit of fuel and just going along here. We're just below half tank, so probably you'll see everybody in the pits.
Certainly been a learning year for Ryan. He's had his moments, 6 DNFs, but he seems to be right at home here. Chip, what would a win today mean to you guys?
Well, it would really be a breath of oxygen that we badly need team-wise, but we'll see. You know, it's a long day yet.
All right, pit strategy is about to play out. I see your guys out. Is Ryan coming in?
Yes.
Ryan's coming in. Vince?
Helio Castroneves is also coming in. He's been communicating with Tim Cindric in regards to any changes that they may be getting here during this pit stop. Tim, any changes for Helio's car coming in?
No, I think we're going to leave it the way it is. It's a little bit loose under power, but, you know, for right now, that's okay. We think the track will come to us.
What's been the concern so far for Helio on course?
Really just trying to keep the thing on track and see how the race plays out. I think we'll have a good pit stop here. We're just going to, I guess, look at this thing opening it up and see what happens.
Tim Cindric.
All right, thank you, Vince, as they bunch up and make their way down the hill. This is key, as Jamie pointed out. Pit strategy is going to be huge. We talk about Dario Franchitti, who is currently in 13th place. If you're Dario Franchitti's guys, Scott, do you leave him out there?
Well, right now he's not moving up through the field very quickly, but he needs to make some changes on the car, Todd, because he's really just found his level right now. He's been behind Patrick Carpentier. He can't gain any time, so I would come in, make some changes, hopefully make the car better.
There you see the keys, and Dixon and Herta have both decided to stay out. Dario Franchitti also stayed out as we check in with Jamie.
Guys, your leader, Ryan Briscoe, is coming in. They said he's been so happy with the car. You see him changing those Firestone Firehawks, 4 of them, filling up the fuel. Right now, no changes, and it's a real good stop for Ryan Briscoe. Vince Welch?
Helio Castroneves getting fuel and Firestones. You heard Tim Cindric say no changes. Off he goes, very clean.
Tony Kanaan. Now watch the squeeze as they exit pit road. TK goes around Weldon, and Castroneves is the first one off of pit road. He will be the first one back on the racetrack here under the first yellow of the afternoon.
Well, you can see just how frenetic it was, and we think about the start of the show with Vince Welch talking about how critical that pit area was. You know, Ryan Briscoe's on the other side, the south end, and I got to wonder if Helio Castroneves guys didn't say he's out, turn him loose, because he pulled out just in the nick of time to beat out Ryan Briscoe. We'll sort it all out when we come back to the Sonoma Valley and the Infineon Raceway when we continue with the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix here on ESPN.
Back at Infineon Raceway under yellow, getting set to restart the green, and a problem for our points leader, Dan Weldon, who made a pit stop a moment ago, but the fueling mechanism malfunctioned. They got no fuel in the car. Listen in as he comes in this time.
Okay, we are flowing. Steady, steady.
Well, that time they were able to get fuel in the car, but it cost him a tremendous amount of track position from the middle of the top of the front end all the way to the back of the racetrack. Remember, in St. Petersburg, Dario Franchitti had a fueling problem and had to have 6 pit stops to still finish in the top 5. Maybe Weldon will have to have that kind of day here, but they had trouble getting fuel in the car, and now the points leader is shotgunned on the field. Guys?
Wow. Wow is right, because right now Sam Hornish is sitting back in the garage area watching that and going, maybe some luck would have come my way if I had still been on the race course. And when you saw Danny go out in a hurry to catch up to the back end of the field, which he's now done over here in the carousel area, but actually going through turns 1 and 2 and then sliding just a little bit. You're very aggressive to try and get caught back up there, but if you had a slid off, Todd, that would have been a bad situation for the points leader.
Well, he was only in the pits for just over 6 seconds, but that long straightaway we talked about at the top of the show as they come down that turn, and well, terrible turn of events for Dan Weldon, but the Toyota lap leaders look like this. It is all Briscoe. Brian Herta has now inherited the lead. He did not pit. There were 6 who did not pit. Herta, Dixon, Pantano, Franchitti, Schechter, and Danica Patrick all elected to stay out on this yellow flag. Well, we knew there'd be pitting strategy, Scott. That was one of the keys to your winning this race. Do you think Danica, Brian Herta, and the Scott Dixons of the world made the right decision?
Well, including Frank Heady, who I thought actually might come in to make some changes to the car, but obviously they're going to go out here and try and hope for another yellow before they have to pit underneath green.
Starter, green flag.
Green flag is out, and we are off and running once again. 25% of the way complete here in Sonoma. Brian Herta, your new leader, the man who won at Michigan earlier this year, leads them through the corner. Scott Dixon, part of the Target Chip Ganassi team, sits in second, and Giorgio Pantano sits in third.
Herta just up ahead right now, known as a road course specialist, but a great win, as you mentioned earlier this year on the oval for him. Now what's going to happen here is Dixon's going to try and outbrake him, go into the turn, gain a little time on him under braking, but he's got to get back on the gas as quickly as possible to take advantage. Here's Danica.
Oh my!
Actually going through 3 abreast.
And that's Ryan Briscoe on the inside. I don't know where he thought he was going, but Danica Patrick.
Are you stalled?
Well, that's some rookie form showing through right there. The fastest race car on the racetrack, Todd. Certainly the best car underneath them.
Stupid idiot.
Need to have patience, and you heard exactly what she said. Stupid idiot. She's not very happy.
And on the left-hand side, if I'm not mistaken, that's Elio Castro-Neves, who has also been taken out. And you remember Elio had an incident at St. Petersburg, and there he's got the Firestone tattoo on the left side of the car. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Pep boys are not going to be able to fix that real quick.
That car right now is not going to go very far, and you know something, a short day, all you want to make sure is you get to the end of the day, collect some points, but the frustration from a driver, especially Danica said, you know, I've just had a bad weekend so far, not running very fast, knows the road courses, but she's been very impressive on ovals. I think back to the short ovals, which everybody anticipated she wouldn't do very well on, but how aggressive she was on those short 1-mile tracks, like Milwaukee.
Well, Scott, she came under attack by not 1, but 2 or 3 drivers. I don't know if she was slowing down, but she was in the right place. She was in the right, and she just got shut down.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what was happening is that she was sort of in the middle, and Castro-Neves and also Briscoe were trying to go around her. Neither one wanted to actually give away any space. Here's Elio saying, I'm really sorry, calm down.
Been there, done it. Elio's a class act. He would never do anything like that. He's just an aggressive driver. Here it is again as we ride on board with Danica Patrick.
Coming up on both sides right now. See that? So Castro-Neves is on the left-hand side trying to go around her, take advantage of the situation. And Briscoe says, you know something, I'm going to lose a spot here if he gets through. And he's actually on the dirt, has no hope of even making that, even if she wasn't there.
Well, I've got to wonder then, Scott, take us through this as we watch it one more time. Danica Patrick, is she trying to protect that outside line because she thinks Elio's a more dangerous pass, and then Briscoe just saw the opening and said, I'll take it?
She's running in a perfect spot right there, exactly what she's supposed to do, and both those guys are driving over the limit on cold tires, Todd, after the restart, trying to take advantage of her situation, and there was absolutely no way that even Castro-Neves was going to make that on the outside.
Danica's mom, Bev, right there watching the replays, and she knows good driving and she knows bad driving. And right there, I'm sure Bev would have some very strong feeling. Ryan Briscoe is going to get out of the car.
You know, right now, Chip is scratching his head going, what do I have to do to get back up to the winner's circle where he just lived for a couple of years, been so successful, and this is a disappointment.
Unbelievable turn of events as we check in with Vince Welch, who's with Bobby Rahal.
Well, Bobby, you've been a veteran of road coursing accidents in the past. What did you make of that one?
I call that a desperate move. You know, there was obviously no way Briscoe was going to make it. It's a shame. You know, took out us and Helio, you know, and those are two, Helio in particular was a competitive car, so that's too bad. But, you know, I said before the race to the drivers, I thought there was going to be a lot of desperate moves out of there. We just had to make sure we weren't part of them, and unfortunately we got caught out.
Some big-name drivers out. Hornish is out. Castro-Neves is out. Obviously, Danica Briscoe is involved in an incident as well. Maybe better the chances for Vitor and Buddy.
Well, Buddy's been doing great. He's been running 5th, hanging right with Canan and everybody, and Vitor has been behind him. And they made up some places for Vitor in the pit stop. So I think they're both looking pretty good right now.
Let's go to Jamie Little.
Well, Vince, the roller coaster of emotions continue for Chip Ganassi, the highest of highs and now the lowest of lows. Your boy is out. What did you see happen there? We just heard Bobby Rahal say it could have been a desperate move on Ryan Briscoe's part.
Yeah, I don't know that it was a desperate move. I mean, you know, you got cars that are running around the back of the field and they're suddenly in the middle of the field. And I think, you know, he saw an opening and went for it. I really don't know what happened. I haven't talked to him yet, but we still have 2 cars out there that can win the race.
And talking about those 2 drivers, Scott Dixon and your new driver, Giorgio Pantano, neither one has come in. What is your strategy at this point?
Well, obviously they can, I think they can do it on one more stop. And I think everybody else is going to have to stop twice, I think. I have to go get caught up on their strategy.
All right, well, he has no time to sit and dwell on what happened to Briscoe. He has 2 more cars in the field. And, guys, both of our leaders are out of the field.
So the drama continues at Infineon Raceway. Danica Patrick has dropped and been dropped by Ryan Briscoe, who also has to move out. And Elio Castroneves, a rough day for Roger Penske. We'll shake it all down when we come back to Sonoma. Back at Infineon Raceway in Sonoma Valley, and Dan Weldon has come in one more time. And he's calling for a drink or something, and that's not going to get the job done.
Actually, there's usually a handle that actually gives you that water bottle there. And he's got to stop, otherwise he'll drag that onto the racetrack. Not the best move, actually, during the pit stop with that. There's usually a handle that they hand the water bottle off to the driver. He picks it up out of the little carriage and actually has a couple of sips, and then it's his job, Todd, to throw it back to them. They're generally not throwing it to him.
Well, we talked about pits this year, Scott, and this is a first.
Here you go, have that. Yeah. You know something?
His head shaking.
Yeah. You didn't buy me dinner last night, so you get your own water bottle.
Let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, aside from the water bottle toss that they were practicing here on pit road a moment ago, the reason they wanted to bring Dan Weldon in was because they wanted to see if under yellow, when they're not quite as hurried, if the fueling mechanism would work correctly. They did not change the nozzle a moment ago. He had to come back in. The first time he pitted under green or under the beginning of the yellow, they got no fuel in the car. It worked flawlessly that time. So as you see Michael Andretti and the guys up there talking it over, they got it full of fuel. So now he'll be able to go even further and have a window. And by the way, we are being told in the Dan Weldon pits that unless Elio Castroneves returns to the racetrack, if Weldon finishes this race today, no matter where he finishes, Elio will be eliminated from any championship contention. So one more could fall to the wayside as Weldon moves toward his first IRL IndyCar title.
Well, they talked about fitness. They talked about survival. Who will survive the Infineon Raceway? It's our inaugural running. Who will be left standing when it's all done? Brian Hurt is your leader, followed by Scott Dixon and Giorgio Pantano. And we'd like to congratulate and welcome our newest IndyCar Series fans. First, John and Kristen Lewis. Taylor Elizabeth Lewis joined us on August 26th on 2005 at 6:47 a.m. And also Eric and Maggie Sears on Josephine Gavin Sears, born August 26, 2005. And Eric is one of our cameramen, of course. John Lewis is the Senior Director of Racing Operations here at the IndyCar Series. So we'd like to welcome both of those new ones. I'm Scott. I'm sure they're going to be IndyCar Series fans with the racing that we've got today.
You've got to actually have IndyCar Racing Series t-shirts already. Todd, you know, thinking about this here, points championship, what about the rookie championship? If Ryan Briscoe is going to take anybody out in the field right now, he might as well take out Danica, being the points leader for the rookie championship. So if he's going to take out anybody, he took out the right person.
Yeah, not the greatest day for him. We'll get more on that as we check in with Jamie Little.
Well, guys, we're here with A.J. Foyt, and actually Anthony Foyt IV is not in the car. Jeff Bucknam is replacing him just for this race as of right now. And AJ, why did you make the decision to take your grandson out of the car here?
Well, I didn't take him out. I knew this was a tricky track. I've run here before, and the biggest thing, he went to Bob Brahms Run School, and I didn't want him to run here.
So he will be back in Chicago. How about Jeff Bucknam? What'd you see in him?
I don't know at the present time, to be truthful.
And we're going on a restart, and he's at work, guys.
Brian Herta takes him around as the green flag comes out. And it is the Target Chip Ganassi cars going 2 and 3 with Scott Dixon and Giorgio Pantano. Wouldn't that be something? They linked their hopes on Ryan Briscoe, the pole sitter, and it's one of these two that comes through and possibly brings a checkered flag to Chip.
Well, you know, right now Dixon needs a breath of fresh air as he's starting to put a little bit of pressure coming off turn 4, going through 5, right on Brian Herta. You know, once you get that sense that you have an opportunity to win a race, when you've had a season like Scott Dixon has had, or the whole Target Chip Ganassi team, you can rest assured that he's doing everything he possibly can. Watch this, a good run off of 6 down the drag strip. Remember, a Toyota, he's filling the mirrors right now, just a little bit of Brian Herta, making Brian Herta run a tighter line as he did. And so it gives Dixon an opportunity to hopefully power up. Now, don't forget, the Hondas have just a little bit more horsepower. You're seeing him start to just stretch away here through the S's under acceleration, but possibly will the target cars be better under braking and through the turns?
Dario Franchitti is coming into view right there. He is currently sitting in 4th. None of these 4 drivers have pitted recently, so it'll be interesting to see if they get a yellow flag, how this plays out as we check in with Vince Welch.
Well, they just fired the engine in Sam Hornish Jr.'s car, and they've taken it out as Helio Castroneves paces around here in the garage area. And get a word real quickly with Helio, very frustrated. Helio, what happened down there in that corner?
I would say a little, but actually was a lot lack of patience on Ryan's part, you know. I mean, he had a great car. He was fast. I mean, both of us were fast, you know, and Danica was trying. She noticed that we were really fast, and she was trying to give us away. I don't know what the heck he was thinking, you know. He just decided to pass everybody in one corner and end up taking everybody out. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Maybe one of the things that rookies have the least of is the understanding of patience. Would you say that's maybe the case of that corner?
Come on, I mean, no, that would be a lame excuse, to be honest. He's a good driver. He's fast, but that was definitely no patience at all.
Thanks, Helio.
Well, you hope Helio can get back out there, Scott. There's a situation one more time. Ryan Briscoe just dive bombing in there.
Across the dirt, anytime you put some wheels on the dirt, you know, that lack of adhesion factor just sort of gives you a little bit less grip. But he was up over the curbing as you saw a car raise, and that's what actually bounced him into Danica Patrick. She in turn went to the left and took out Helio Castroneves.
Back to racing action. Your leader, Brian Herta, number 7 in the XM Satellite from Valencia, California. Behind him, it's Scott Dixon, a former champion in 2003 on the IndyCar Series, and Giorgio Pantano, not a rookie to road racing, but a rookie to the IndyCar Series, currently sits in 3rd with Dario Franchitti close behind.
Now, these first 4 cars, remember, did not pit the last time, so they're going to be looking for a fuel window situation here very shortly. And Franchitti, who everybody said would be on the pole and had that spin in qualifying, now through obviously pit strategy has moved himself forward through the brilliance of Kyle Moyer. So we'll have to see if he can find a yellow here so he doesn't have to pit underneath green, because then he's going to lose all that track position. Listen to all the blipping of the throttle going through the gearbox all the way down, 6 all the way down to 2nd gear through turn 7. That's what I talk to all the drivers. They love coming back to this road course, especially a natural terrain road course with the hills and the valleys as we're looking at right now. A lot of these guys are born and bred really on road courses, Todd, and this is really just in their heyday right now.
Scott Dixon currently 2nd place right now. As we pointed out, he is a former IndyCar Series champion. You talked about a fresh breath of fresh air for Scott Dixon. A win here, does that just erase everything that's happened to him throughout the year?
They carry himself into the next event, and even if he didn't win for the rest of the year, didn't really have a top finish, at least you've left the season with a victory. That's the most important thing.
And for more on Target Chip Ganassi's other driver, Ryan Briscoe, we send it down to Jamie Little.
Scott, this was Ryan Briscoe's day to take home his first victory. Unfortunately, it was cut short. Ryan, we watched the replay. We heard from Helio Castroneves. What is your take on what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it was a pretty big mess going up into there, and you know, we had some slower cars in front because of the pit stop strategy, and as I was going up the hill, I was on the inside going into turn 7, and yeah, when everyone got on the brakes, you know, obviously they were defending their positions, and I just jumped on the brakes a bit late, it looks like, and had to go on the dirt. Once I got there was no stopping the car, so, you know, I haven't seen the playback yet. I thought a hole was there. Obviously it wasn't. I'm just really sorry because we had a great car. It was really fast, and I'm sorry for whoever else is out of the race.
So it was a mistiming on your part. Bobby Rahal thought it could have just been, you know, a desperate move on your part.
Well, you know, it wasn't. It's always difficult to know in situations like that where people are going to turn, and you know, things are said in briefings about blocking and not blocking, and you know, it was probably my mistake. Hopefully we'll just learn from it.
It's a tough break. Another bad day for Ryan Briscoe, the rookie, guys. His 7th DNF this season.
Well, 3 times in series history, a driver has won in his first start. 2 of the 3 were driving for Chip Ganassi. Juan Pablo Montoya, 2000 Indy 500. Scott Dixon, 2003 at Homestead. Can Giorgio Pantano, Scott Dixon, turn the trick and be Giorgio Pantano, the man who would do it? Make it 3 times in a row for Chip. They list him as a rookie, but folks, he is no rookie when it comes to street courses and road courses. Giorgio Pantano looked good in practice. He looks good today. He currently sits in 3rd place here at the inaugural running of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix. We send you side by side. We'll be back after this short break with much more from the beautiful Sonoma Valley. Welcome back to Sonoma. It's the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix Infineon Raceway. Giorgio Pantano is coming in, and this will be interesting. A lot of pressure on him right here, Scott.
Pressure on the crew, pressure on the driver. We've seen pit mistakes so far today. Remember, this is underneath green, so he cannot waste time or he'll lose positions on the racetrack.
Clear.
9.5 seconds, a great stop, Todd.
As we said before, no rookie here as Pantano makes his way up pit row. Real pleasant young man we got to visit with during the course of the last couple of days, and his travels have been amazing. He's come from Turkey over to here for testing, then he's going to go back to Italy, then he's going to come back for Watkins Glen. If nothing else, he's logging a lot of freaking flyer miles.
A lot of air travel when you're involved with the F1 group, and he has done that before. Now he's running an F2. Great driver, very excited to be here. Would like to be here next year.
Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Danica Elio indicated he thought you were trying to give them room to get by. What did you see, and how did you feel that accident transpired?
Well, you know I wasn't the fastest car on the track, but we were doing the best we could with strategy to try and get up front. So that's what we did. We stayed out on the pit stop, and when it went green, I thought, I gave Helio room down the hill in turn 6 because I thought he was underneath me. I wasn't trying to put up a stupid battle this early. And the last thing I expected when I was going around turn 7, almost halfway around, was someone come up the inside, and Helio, unfortunately, was an innocent, someone side by side with me that shouldn't have taken the brunt of that, and for that matter, I shouldn't have either. I think it was a over anxious move this early in the game, and 2 of the fastest cars went out, and that's what happens when you make silly mistakes.
Thanks for the time, Danica.
Well, she's a class act and says it like it is, Scott. I'd love to look at that angle one more time because I know Ryan Briscoe said that he had the room, or he thought he had the room to go the inside, but as we looked at that replay, I don't know where you're going to squeeze an Indycar on that inside. Danica was in perfect position.
Anytime you end up having to go to the dirt or to the grass, if it happens to be there, that's a problem. We talked about having the walls earlier in this program. If the walls had been there, I guarantee you he would not have tried to make that move, but we talked about it earlier in the show. You sort of extend yourself here, take chances that you generally wouldn't take, and that's absolutely what he did.
We're expecting Dario Franchitti. He does just that. He comes down pit row. Scott Dixon's just in front of him. And this is a green flag pit, Scott. How does this change his strategy?
Well, the key thing we talk about all the time, if you can pit underneath yellow, the pace is slower on the racetrack. Right now, as you see, Dixon peel off to your left-hand side and along Franchitti. No mistakes can happen here.
Okay, wide open.
Let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
All right, from last to third in 32 laps for Dario Franchitti. He comes in, they'll make a wing adjustment, air pressure change, then a bit of an understeer. Remember what happened last week when the car stalled on pit road, cost him a chance at victory. They had a clutch problem. Can he get the car off pit road? They got it full of fuel and a nice pit stop. Dixon beats Franchitti, but they're off of pit road here in lap 33.
Wow, what a great stop by the Target Chip Ganassi team when they are pitted all the way down at the other end of the pit lane. A fast stop for them to be able to beat the Andretti Green team out of the pit box. Super work.
And great camera work by Dario Franchitti. He came out there and Dr. Jerry Punch called it. He was so close to hitting a course marshal with a flag. Trying to get ahead of Giorgio Pantano, unable to do so, but it was a fantastic pit stop as we ride on board with Dario Franchitti.
One of those keys to the race that we talked about, Todd, was the pit stops. That's why those guys are overextending themselves, wanting to get in and out as quickly as possible.
Our leader is coming down pit road, part of the Andretti Green team. This is the number 7 car of Brian Herta, and we send it one more time down to Dr. Jerry Punch.
Brian Herta, who dominated at Michigan on the super speedway, trying to get one where he feels very comfortable on the road course. George Klotz calls him in. Great fuel mileage for Brian Herta, pitting on lap 33. They'll be able to go to lap 62. 4 tires, no air pressure change, no wing change. Thomas Inge becomes the leader. And a great figure, 9.7 seconds for Brian Herta as he's away.
So Brian Herta back on track, back on with Dario Franchitti. And the moment I was alluding to after his stop as he was getting out of pit row. Watch this.
Super. Watch the car on your right hand, seeing Dario Franchitti getting a little bit sideways, unleashing that 675 horsepower. And the marshal says, hey, I'm a volunteer, man. Don't hit me.
You talk about drivers having moments. I think he might have just had a moment there.
He probably did. It's like you leaving the rental car lot the other day.
About the same pace.
Listen, back on the throttle here. This is what you love when the car's working so well. Some fresh Firestone tires on there, lots of grip, hard under braking from 155 down to about 55 to 60 miles an hour for turn 7.
There is your leader, number 2, the man from the Czech Republic, Tomáš Enge. He is a rookie to our series. He has a lot of road racing experience, a very pleasant young man to be with. He's part of the Rockstar Chevrolet team, and unfortunately Chevrolet, Scott, has decided not to come back to the Indycar series, and we've talked with the folks at Panther, and they say, well, we'll wait and see what happens. We take a look at our Toyota lap leaders. Herta 16, Briscoe 16, and now Thomas Enge with 2. Enge has led the 4 laps at St. Pete, only laps he's led all year. Can he keep this till we get to 80? As you look at your leader, Thomas Enge out in front, we recap the race. Lap 1, Sam Hornish Jr., his hopes come to a devastating halt as he has a mechanical he is taken behind the wall. Next up, Dan Weldon, the points leader. Thinks he got gas on his pit stop, had to come back in one more time. Here was the big one. Ryan Briscoe, the rookie, and leading at time, goes into a corner just a little too hot, takes out Danica Patrick and Elio Castro-Neves. Frustration all the way around for Danica and Elio Castro-Neves, and Ryan Briscoe off to the sideline to think of what could have been as we look and ride on board with the 4 car of Thomas Schechter, part of the Panther Chevrolet. And we also want to let you know, Sunday, there are just 3 races left to decide the championship. The 1.5-mile Chicagoland Speedway, speeds in excess of 223 miles an hour, and sight of the closest ever IndyCar finish, the Peak Antifreeze Indy 300, presented by Mr. Clean, live on ABC Sports next Sunday, September 11th, 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 Pacific, as we check in with Vince Welch.
Well, guys, this race is grueling enough in this race course and the number of shifts that you have to do and the different elevation changes, but Thomas Schechter's having a problem. There's a gauge on the gear shift lever that detects the pressure on the shifting lever and engages the gear when you're wanting to shift it. Well, this gauge is malfunctioning, so it's not understanding, the gear's not understanding that it's time to shift. So Thomas Schechter has to use the clutch every time he shifts the gear. What did you say before the race, guys? Over 3,000 shifts during the course of this race. So he has to use that leg and engage that clutch more than 3,000 times today.
Great information, Vince. And Scott, what kind of disadvantage is Schechter at now?
Not really so much of a disadvantage, because the only big one for him is if actually the clutch had failed. But right now, this is going back to the way we used to drive years ago. And there's a leader, Thomas Enge, who is really pushing it hard and trying to make up time before he had to come into the pits.
You got to be kidding me. It's a spin to win all over again as Thomas Enge gets off into the dirt like Danny Sullivan, and he keeps it rubber side down.
What an amazing amount of driving, knowing where you are, connected back to the right heading, sort of guiding his ship in the right direction, and off he went.
Let's look at this one more time. You got to be kidding me.
Looks like the back end starts to come around, a bit of a correction, and remember, if the walls were here, he would be out for the day, but ends up going through the dirt. And right now, has 7-second lead, is going to actually start to deteriorate. Did not hopefully do any damage going over the curbing, but there you can see Tony Kanaan, who's actually right directly behind him. He'll take that 7-second lead, probably snap it down to somewhere just about 3. And right now, Tony Kanaan, Todd, can smell this and taste this and go, you know something, I'm on my way.
Tony Kanaan, who was involved in that incident at our first road course at St. Petersburg when he got into it with Ryan Briscoe. He would later go on to finish in the top 4 with his teammates. But Tony Kanaan now is in the perfect position to pounce, and Tomas Enge, the rookie, out in front, spins but keeps it on the course. As we slide back to Buddy Rice. Buddy Rice, who qualified 6th, now sits in 3rd place. I talked to him just before he went down to pit row. I said, what do you think? He says, I just want to survive. Well, buddy, you're surviving right now. You're sitting in 3rd place. The 2004 Indianapolis 500 champion. Last season, we talked about it, Scott. He pretty much had everything going his way. This season, he has had a world of hurt put upon him. Why the change?
You know, the key thing right now for him, as you mentioned, is to finish. But the change that has happened is that they've not had competitive cars at every racetrack they've gone to. A lot of limelight shine away from him, obviously, with the arrival of Danica Patrick. And he's sort of been lost in everything right now as his teammate Vitor Meira is starting to fill up his mirrors. But he is much like Dixon, just needs a good result and a good finish. And if this man here, Vitor Meira, were to win, it would be his first win. Both those guys just are trying to make some great moves here for Rahal Letterman, who has not had a banner year like they did last season.
We talked about Chip Ganassi. This could have been his breakout weekend, and the tides have turned once again on the Indycar series, kind of like a soap opera. Now it's Rahal Letterman's turn to be up front. Buddy Rice and Vitor Meira, teammates, now running 3 and 4. Their other teammate, Danica Patrick, taken out of the race. Danica goes out earlier with a yellow incident with Ryan Briscoe on lap number 21. So it's Rice and Meira flying the colors for Rahal Letterman. There's your leader, Tomas Enge, number 2. After that amazing spin and keeps it on the track, he has maintained his lead and it is now down to 2.26 seconds. It was upwards of 7 seconds. And Scott, you made a great point. He was trying to stretch this thing out like Tony Kanaan would do. Well, guess what? Tony Kanaan is closing in behind him as we check in with Vince Welch.
Guys, Tomas Enge on that spin, he had just set the fastest lap of the race. In the lap before the spin, you're looking at some of the data that the engineers are studying to make sure that nothing has gone wrong with the race car. They said Enge did not even say a word on the radio during the course of that spin or afterwards. The data indicates that everybody and everything with the car is just fine, but they're going to make sure when they come in a pit stop in about 7 laps. So here it is. Take a look at this again as Tomas Enge, the leader of the race, spins, goes through the dirt, and somehow recovers and keeps going. His engineer, Andy Bourne, just smiled and said, wow, that was impressive.
And you know what's more impressive, Scott? He didn't say anything on the radio. If it wasn't for us, no one would have known it happened.
Well, he's actually wiggling until he's driving that car on the very edge right there, not only through the turns, but also under braking. When the car wiggles under braking, that means the driver's driving it to the limit. But I can tell you previously as a driver, if you do something like that and you continue on, Todd, you just sort of hope maybe that the team doesn't see it. And you don't want to report it. You just maybe can recover from it, go forward. And if you don't say anything, it's no harm, no foul.
Tomas Enge, remember we had to sit out a few weekends because he had that crash in Nashville that hurt his back and neck, and he is back up and running now. Well, he led before the spin 6.9 seconds. After the spin is down to 2.13. Now he's opening the lead again at 2.25. Surprise you?
Not really, certainly because he has the road track ability, as does this man, Tony Kanaan. But right now you want to sit into a pace and make sure that you are feeling what the car is doing as the track is changing. The sun's coming out, the track is getting hotter. As the fuel load depletes, these guys have an opportunity to make changes inside their cockpit with the anti-roll bar adjustments and the weight jackers to make sure that the cars are having an opportunity to handle a little bit better. But maybe with only one more stop, you certainly want to do your tire pressure change to perfection.
We note Nashville, Tomas Enge also had to miss Motegi due to a practice crash. But right now, the man from the Czech Republic is out in front of the Brazilian. Tony Kanaan sits in second. Then it's Buddy Rice, who will move out in front as we have passed the halfway point. Come back to the Sonoma Valley after this short break. It's 5 o'clock on the East Coast, 2 o'clock on the West Coast. Do you know where your favorite IndyCar driver is? as we take a look at Tomas Inge, who leads right now. Tony Kanaan closing in and closing in quick on lap 43 of 80. What a race we have seen thus far, Scott. And Tomas Inge is certainly someone who has not been a surprise. Tomas Inge has led 10 laps, and we've had 3 different leaders, 2 lead changes, of course. Laps led, of course, Brian Hurta 16. Ryan Briscoe had 16 before his unfortunate incident, and now it is Tomas Inge who has led for 10 laps. Out of the race, unfortunately, is Ryan Briscoe, the man who had the pole. Danica Patrick involved in that incident, as was Elio Castroneves.
One of the two fastest cars that we were talking about that are already out there, and you look right now on the move, Scott Sharp, who's actually improved by 10 positions. Koski Masura by 8, and also Dario Franchitti by 8. Remember, he had to start at the back because he spun out in qualifying, the favorite for the pole, and right now he's doing a great job by marching up through the field.
Scott, I say this with the most profound respect for you, but sometimes you drivers are just knuckleheads. You just need patience, and it seemed like those first 20 laps, no one had any patience. Now that we've settled into a pace, it seems like everything's fine and good. We'll just let this thing pan out.
As I've always said to you through our discussions, you know, drivers, once they put the helmet on, the patience, the instructions from the team, all that information that you're supposed to keep inside your mind, all that knowledge sort of goes out because the adrenaline takes over. And that's what I think Tony Kanaan's working on right now, because he sees the opportunity of maybe getting past Inge, who's just in front of him. And a moment ago on the radio, he said to his team, said, do you want me to run full fuel and pass him, or do you want me to conserve fuel and stay behind? So, and they didn't really give him a direct answer, but maybe it's save fuel, stay behind, and maybe take advantage during the next pit stop.
You bring up a great point. Probably some of the most competitive athletes anywhere in the world, and that's why when you put the helmet on, I guess, is you just want to get to the front of the pack, which Tomas Inge and Tony Kanaan have done. It's nice to have a guy like Tony Kanaan, I guess, in there when you have that option. Do you want me to pass him or not? As we slide back to Scott Sharp, number 8, as we pointed out, he is one of the movers right now, currently sitting in 9th place. And that is the 14 of Jeff Bucknam, who is filling in for A.J. Foyt the 4th in a big move. This is the first time someone other than A.J. Foyt has driven that 14 car, but it maybe is a wise move.
A lot of road course experience, and A.J. said didn't really want to run A.J. the 4th in the car, certainly because he did not have a lot of road course experience. And I asked Bucknam earlier this morning, and he just said, you know something, I got so much experience around here, it's just a thrill to drive an Indycar around this racetrack, because he used to be an instructor here many, many years ago.
Word from the pit is that Tomas Inge, number 2, will pit on this one. We are watching Scott Sharp right there, and he is having radio problems, unable to communicate with his pit area. And Inge decides not to. He elects to come back around for one more.
Well, that information is on his digital dash.
Next lap.
There's the information right there. The information is back on the computers in the pit lane, real-time telemetry. The engineers see all the functions of the car as it's going around the racetrack, and they follow the car on a cursor on a track map that's on their computer, and they see everything, including tire pressures and fuel mileage, instant fuel that's left in the tank. The driver sees all that information also, Todd, so you have a number on your dash. It might be like 2.2 gallons to complete 1 lap around this race course. And if in there he says, you know something, I can make it 1 more lap, maybe I'll give that a go.
All right, Professor Goodyear, strategy 101 with Tony Kanaan running so well, Tomas Inge, a rookie, running so well. If Inge pits here, which they said on the radio he will, if you're Tony Kanaan, do you come in?
If I have enough fuel, I'm going to put my foot into it, try and actually stretch as much of an advantage as possible. Tony Kanaan is always very good at taking everything he can get out of the car for a lap. And see if he can actually give an advantage, which would give him an advantage on the track, which might transfer through the pit. A quick wing change we saw there with Scott Sharp, and as you mentioned, no radio information, so he must have to give them hand signals in the pit lane telling them what type of wing change to do.
Let's see what Inge does. He will come in. Tony Kanaan will stay out. Now you saw they reminded him, watch your pit speed. It's 60 miles an hour out of there, and Scott, here it is. Tony Kanaan is going to put it down and see if he can stretch this thing. Vitor Meira also coming into pit row.
Talked about the keys to the race, the pit stops, a lot of pressure on the team right now to do a perfect pit stop.
Vince Welch.
Tomas Inge missed a couple of races earlier this season because of a back injury. He's worked hard with team trainer Tim Drudge to get healthy and strong. The team felt they had a legitimate shot to win this race. No changes, just tire pressure, and away he goes. A clean stop for the Rockstar Group.
10.6, not bad. Now, Scotty, can he make this last the rest of the race? Can he go the rest of the way on that load of fuel?
He's going to have one more stop ahead of him, I'm sure, as we see Vitor Meira start to come into the pit lane. Actually, out of the pit lane now. Stop is completed.
Tony Kanaan, the defending IndyCar Series champion, part of the Andretti Green race team. He has moved to the front of the pack, and if you're a betting person, certainly not a bad guy to pick.
Probably will come down in pit lane this time. No, he's actually great fuel mileage happening right there, Todd.
So Tony Kanaan decides to stretch this thing out. How far can the Brazilian go? Stick around and find out much more on ESPN when we return to the Sonoma Valley. Tony Kanaan elects one more time to stay out. This is the 10th race he has led this year out of 14. He didn't lead at St. Pete, Richmond, or Milwaukee, but Tony Kanaan is your leader here at the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix from beautiful Sonoma Valley Infineon Raceway. Todd Harris along with Scott Goodyear, Dr. Jerry Punch, Vince Welch, and Jamie Little reporting from the pits on a picture-perfect day. Buddy Rice decides he'll come in, and we check in with Vince Welch.
Buddy Rice, Firestones, and fuel. No changes expected on the chassis. Remember, 6 DNFs for Buddy Rice this season. They just want to get to the end, and the better result they can get, the happier they'll be. Let's go down pit lane.
Well, they are very closely watching the computers here in the Tony Kanaan pit. Engineer Eric Caldon, very middle engineer here in the back row, watching closely. They've got to get Tony Kanaan to lap 50 and at 51 to have a shot at making it, but can the fuel last? That's why Tony didn't try to pass Inge a moment ago. He wanted to conserve as much fuel as possible. If you run out of fuel on a 2.3-mile road course, you're out of luck and your day is done. Remember, Tony sits third in the point standings, and if he can make it one more lap, he'll pit, and that might just be his final pit stop of the day. A roll of the dice possibly coming in the 7-11 pit.
Kanaan continues to burn laps here at Infineon Raceway as we take a look once again at our Toyota lap leaders, and Kanaan is starting to amass some numbers next to his name. Herta 16, Briscoe 16, he's out of the race. Enge had the momentary lead for 13, and now it is all Tony Kanaan. Scott, do you like this strategy, or is it dicey? Because this is not a situation where if they miscalculate, he's out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, about 25 to 28 laps you'll get under green on a full tank of fuel. He certainly needs to get that as much over 50 as possible and hope for maybe a bit of a yellow. And right now, the key thing is go as quickly as possible with using as least amount of fuel. And if you can stretch that by those numbers that are on the dash, and you can actually get even one more lap out of it, it might just be enough to make it to the end.
This is the battle for second place as we ride on board points leader Dan Weldon, your Indianapolis 500 champion. He is right behind the 51 car, the Red Bull Cheever car of Alex Barron, who is a very accomplished road racer. If Weldon can get by Barron, he would move into the lead as soon as his teammate Tony Kanaan pitted. And just when we thought Dan Weldon's day was done, he's back.
Always hanging around, very smart race car driver. Has matured so much over the past couple of years as he's watching Alex Barron, who's directly in front of him. Alex is born and raised here in California, and here comes Tony Kanaan.
So Tony Kanaan decides the time is right on lap number 50. The question is, as Dr. Jerry Punch pointed out, as you as well, and the engineers, people a whole lot smarter than me, can he make it the rest of the race without a pit stop? And we check in with Doc.
Well, the calculations say 29 laps. That would put him at lap 79. He's going to need a little bit of a help and got to be very careful on the fuel mileage. Now let's watch these guys go to work. Jeff Simon changing the right front to crew chief. They have got to get it full of fuel. 4 fresh Firestones going on. Kim Green very quiet until he tells Tony to go. Wait. Now go. Tony Kanaan may have made his last pit stop today, and if so, he might just win one here at Sonoma.
There's that very tricky blend line. As you look at number 7, Brian Herta, a teammate of Tony Kanaan's. Kanaan getting up to speed very quickly, but he did beat Thomas Enge out. So there is the situation. Kanaan really did himself a favor there.
The 2 car right there, the Rockstar car of Thomas Enge. Remember, he's got a couple of laps. Tires are up to pressure and temperature. Tony Kanaan knows that. Tony's out lap is going to have to be very strong if he wants to hold Thomas back. See, he's actually running a bit of a wide line going into 7. And this will be the difficult part. Cold tires, can you get the power down as quickly as possible? The Honda power certainly will help him, Todd, accelerate out of 7 and through the S's.
Kanaan running Honda power. Enge running Chevrolet power. There you see Scott Dixon coming in. He's running Toyota power.
accelerating here, going through the gears. Up underneath the bridge. Right now with the Firestone telemetry, watch the speed underneath the bridge up to over 150 miles an hour. The pressure on the steering wheel going up the hill is tremendous. All the drivers were complaining about that. And then the car lightens up as you go over the hill, through the roller coaster dip that you have through 3 and 3A. And as you see, just up ahead, Enge's starting just to get a little bit on the curving here. Remember, the car wants to slide around. Just a fun racetrack to drive. Would you say running out of fuel, possibly?
Dan.
Now this is
okay, you're going to be pitting now. No, it's cut out.
No, he says it's cut out. You see, he's not far enough off the racetrack. A full course yellow comes out, Todd.
Dan Weldon thought he had played it just right. And his track is so big, they don't even... They can't find him. He's at the top of the S's, and he just radioed in, and it's cut out. Full course yellow, and Dan Weldon was in the lead. He had gotten past Alex Barron, who decided to pit, and momentarily thereafter, Weldon has his problems.
Yeah, more than likely we will here. That's quick now. They've got a full course yellow here going.
Now, we talked about the pit strategy a little bit, Todd. This is certainly going to help people like Tony Kanaan and especially Thomas Enge, who pitted a couple of laps previous to that. Now, points championship leader. Do you think that Sam Hornish right now is not going, man, this was not my weekend?
We'll listen into what happened.
That is quiet as it's going by. You can just hear, basically, he's got his foot on the throttle, just a little bit of noise coming out of the motor, and absolutely no power.
Let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And down in the Dan Weldon pits, let's slide over here and get a comment from Michael Andretti if we can. Michael's over here listening to Dan. And Michael, everyone's speculating, is it out of fuel or just not picking up all the fuel?
I don't know. It seems like it's out of fuel. This fuel light came on, so I don't know. Miscalculation or something.
We know you had trouble getting fuel in the car when it first stopped. Was that the problem that precipitated all this?
It's speculation right now. I don't know. I assume that might have had something to do with it, but we won't know until the end of the race.
Okay, Michael Andretti here, and they're really mystified here. They have all this electronics down here, and they were watching the fuel consumption and now listening on the radio. Apparently what happened was the fuel light just popped on suddenly, and it quit. And all they're surmising is what you're seeing at home here is that the thing just suddenly ran out of fuel or wouldn't pick up any more fuel, and whatever, the points leader is getting a tow back to pit road.
And it's not an easy tow. You saw Dan Weldon encouraging them to pick up their pace.
That's turned it off.
Well, right now with Weldon being in 16th spot, if Tony Kanaan was about ready to go off and win this race, collecting 50 points, and the 16th place points that Weldon would get, he would probably get about 16 points towards the points championship. You see, he's saying, just go on, let's just get going. Don't let the whole field pass. He wants to get into the pit lane and have an opportunity to get the car repaired. But he saw in the mirror that all these guys were coming from behind, and he's going, don't leave me out here. Get me in the pit lane.
And now you know why he wanted to get going quicker. So Brian Herta becomes the new leader. The pits are open. There you see it's about a 50-50 split. Thomas Scheckter decides to go. Thomas Enge's in. Dario Franchini's in. And the word from Enge's pit is he's just going to top off. Now, Scott, we know pretty much well that they probably can make it the distance now if they completely fill up, as we check in with Vince Welch.
Just fuel. They know that they can get with the splash, they can get to the finish, and this team believes that Thomas Enge can win this race. They feel as though he has the ability to make enough passes, and they feel they've got the race car underneath him to get the job done. This team has felt for a long time that Enge is capable of doing it, and we'll find out today if he really is, as you see cars race their way off a pit lane.
Well, this is the yellow flag that Tony Kanaan was hoping for, Scott. Unfortunately, it's his teammate. Is it a long enough yellow, or do you think it's at the right time that it's going to help him stretch us all the way to the end?
Certainly enough for Tony Kanaan, but you see them reapplying the rope back there. The driver's responsibility, hold on to that rope, and it's called a quick release rope. Once you get in through pit lane, he'll just take his hand off that rope. It will slide out for the tow bar, and he can tow put himself right back into the pit box, but certainly costing him a little bit of time there as he's sitting in the middle of pit lane.
Tony Kanaan decides to stay out. Buddy Rice moves up to second place. Alex Barron sits in third, and look at this. Patrick Carpentier is in fourth. How will it all shake down in Sonoma? Stick around and find out. From bad to worse, your points leader Dan Weldon had to get towed into the pit box, and Scott, now they can't get it fired.
Probably a vapor lock in the fuel system, and right now I can only think of what Sam Hornish is thinking about. You know, he probably knows this, and he's going, I guess this is not going to be my chance to gain some points to have a shot at this championship.
Sam Hornish Jr. is back on course, but he is 24 laps down as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
And the problem here with Dan Weldon's car is they cannot get any fuel pressure. They're going to have to take the engine cover off. They got it full of fuel, but even with the electric starter, it was not building pressure. It tried to fire. Dan Weldon turned the electronics back on. It started to fire up and it shut off again, much like what happened on the course. He is sitting here on pit road and will lose more and more time as the engine cover comes off now. And they try to figure out why we're not getting fuel pressure, although there is plenty of fuel in the tank. A costly situation here for the points leader. Let's check down in with Jamie Little.
Well, Dr. Punch, at the beginning of the race, we talked about Eddie Cheever and a hopeful team that hopes today ends on a good note. Right now, Eddie, you guys sit third and fourth. How's your fuel strategy looking? We hear Patrick Carpentier is looking good to the end.
We took 2 separate bets and both of them have paid off, but what we need is to get everybody going. This is a road track, not an oval. We don't need to clean up the dirt. Let's go race. Let's go. Cars are running well. Both drivers are happy. Patrick does not have a water bottle in his car, and he's a little bit dehydrated, but it's time to step on the gas.
Time to step on the gas, guy. Eddie Cheever, be a huge day for him and a huge victory. Vince Welch?
With Scott Rimke, and Buddy Rice is currently running second. Just asked Scott if they were going to stop for fuel, and he said not until the race is over. They're going to the end. Has it been that desperate of the season that you guys are going to roll the dice that much?
Well, I don't think the season's been desperate, but when you get a chance to win, you're not gonna play it, you know, conservative. You know, we got a good chance up front, and we'll either finish or we won't.
It's not Vegas, but they're going to roll the dice if necessary. It's Infineon Raceway, and the Indy cars are going round and round on ESPN.
He felt his DNFs were behind him, and Dan Weldon had 1 DNF in Nashville with bearings. It looks like he may be looking at one number 2 as we take a look at the points right now. Dan Weldon has a comfortable lead, but as of now, it's Tony Kanaan who moves into second. Sam Hornish Jr. misses a big opportunity, although he is up and running, but way down. Scott, you said it. If you're Sam Hornish Jr., you got to be wringing your fingers of opportunities missed as they come around the big hairpin turn. Tony Kanaan will lead them.
Green flag, starter green flag.
24 laps to go at Infineon.
A nice sight right there that you don't see very often. Buddy Rice having an opportunity to look right at the front, a little sideways going over the brow, a great correction. Such a talented driver with maybe not a whole lot of luck so far this year.
It's Kanaan, it's Rice, Alex Barron, and Patrick Carpentier round out the top 4. There you see the woes of Buddy Rice, his top finish in the last 3 races, an 11th at Pikes Peak. In talking with him earlier, he felt like a win here would certainly turn their season around. Wouldn't completely salvage it for him personally, but it would mean a whole lot to the team to be able to get that, I guess, monkey off their back, because they have been the proverbial media darlings with Danica Patrick and Buddy winning the Indianapolis 500 last year. And that media is beautiful to have when you're doing well. When you're not, it is a burden. .22 laps to go, and during the restart, look at Thomas Schechter. We talk about...
Green. Well, pardon me, excuse me, coming through.
Dario Franchitti had his moments as well. Watch this.
Green flag.
I don't know how expensive that camera is, but he got it right in there, didn't he?
Yep. Well, maybe a little bit of damage possibly to Thomas Schechter's car.
Here we are.
We'll have to follow this and see. Possibly deflated the tire. We'll have to see what happens here.
Motor off. Shut the motor off.
No, there's actually something going on with the left front suspension. They're going to have a look at that. The driver would know that, Todd, because once you make contact, you would actually feel it different in the steering. As you see, Danny Weldon right now looks like he's going backwards, going back behind the wall. And the same thing will have to happen to the number 4 Pennzoil car. If they cannot repair it quickly in the pit lane, it needs to go back behind the wall.
Vince Welch, what do you know?
Well, the team is, as you see, just hovered around that left front, and the wheel on the rim on the left front wheel is bent pretty significantly. So that indicates the impact that was made there between the two cars. And now the crew is looking back at John Barnes for a little bit of direction. But obviously this is more of a significant problem. Even one of the race officials counting to make sure they've got the appropriate number of men over the wall. So while they continue to work on Schechter, we'll go back upstairs.
All right, thank you, Vince. Tony Kanaan brings him around one more time. There you see the teammates, the 51 of Alex Barron, the 83 of Patrick Carpentier, the Red Bull Cheever drivers. And they said Carpentier unable to get water, a little bit dehydrated. And I know all Canadians are tough, but in this warm weather, this guy's got to be a bit difficult.
Canadian, he'll take it without a problem, Todd. I'm certain. You know, those guys are all great specimens. They turn around, they have an opportunity to go and be fit as they are, and you know, all the training they go through. I don't think there's any drivers out there that are not fit in today's session, but I'll tell you something. I think back even 5 years ago, we did a lot of training, but these guys are actually taking it to the next level. Guys and girl, it's really impressive to see what they are doing. No longer do you train 2 hours a day like I used to. They're doing 4 or 5. You hear Tony Kanaan's schedule, you know, bike riding, swimming, and then running all in the same day. And they all have trainers that generally travel with them. It's a complete different program today than it was even 5 years ago.
And I have still yet to see any of these drivers meet me at the ice cream refrigerator. It's amazing. Can't understand that.
A different diet.
Do you think they have somewhat more of an advantage, although they are running 3 and 4, but they are teammates? Can they work together on this road course?
Well, right now, I think their biggest deficit right now is probably the 2 cars in front are running Honda power. Really, Kanaan with almost a factory Honda powered car. Just probably great fuel mileage, definitely a little bit more horsepower. Toyota did a great job being on pole here with Ryan Briscoe. But these guys have come through very well. Great handling cars, great engineering work here by Red Bull Team Cheever. 3rd and 4th, I think, would be a great finish for those guys. It's not what they're going to be happy with, but certainly they're pushing hard to actually have the opportunity to be there if something goes wrong with the 2 guys in front. See, Tony Kanaan right now seems like he's opened up a little bit of a gap over Buddy Rice. You see Buddy Rice just in the back section there.
And there you see the information that Tony must have gone through his head. He must win all the remaining races, and his teammate, Dan Weldon, has to finish 18th or worse, and he is the defending champion. Well, it looks like today Dan Weldon may just finish 18th or worse, and Tony Kanaan. Well, does that make it difficult, though, as a team to say, hey, I've got the title now, you're in a position to get it, but boy, I tell you, if you mess up, I'll be there to pounce?
Well, as a driver, you certainly know that anybody's going to take your position away from you or certainly wants to beat you, and it doesn't matter if it's your teammates. Great, they have a nice rivalry inside the team, they're all friends, but when you get on the racetrack, it's just all pure business, and he certainly wants to come out with a win and try and gain some points.
Blue skies above and a green car out in front. Tony Kanaan is your leader. Can he hold on for the remaining 19 laps here in Sonoma's beautiful Infineon Raceway? Blue skies above the beautiful Infineon Raceway here in the Sonoma Valley, and our thoughts go out to those affected by Hurricane Katrina, also in Florida, and coming to New Orleans. We wish them the best and hope and pray that all works out for them. Meanwhile, Tony Kanaan continues to lead the inaugural running of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix. Todd Harris along with Scott Goodyear, and this is a great battle as you ride on board with a beautiful perspective with Dario Franchitti. This is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It looks like Scott Sharp has spun out, lights him back up, and almost a little bit too much, Scott.
Sometimes that happens. You just end up getting on the throttle a bit too much, and sometimes you can take that thing and spin it all the way back around the opposite way. This is a great battle. This is what all the drivers love right now, being in a pack like this, seeing if you can actually dig deep a little bit deeper into the turn, get a little bit harder on the brakes, connect, and getting some spots from the guy in front of you, as we see right now. Giorgio Pantano doing. He's doing a great job with that, but you also have to be able to follow that up with getting back on the throttle quickly coming out of the turn, or you actually forgive the space that you actually just made up.
Pantano's teammate this weekend, number 9, Scott Dixon. Dixon currently running in 8th place, just behind Ryan Herta, and we check in with Vince Welch.
Thomas, I know it's been a frustrating weekend for you on a variety of different levels, but what happened in that collision?
We got the green early, obviously, because first guys are starting and we still there, so they called a green. I got on the inside and bumped, but I mean that's the least of our problems the whole weekend. Went out there, we had no shifting, so I couldn't flat shift or downshift. We didn't have traction control for a section. We didn't have any data getting back here. We don't know how much fuel we're using, so this whole weekend I'm going to forget about and glad to be back on the oval soon.
Thomas Schechter.
The 24-year-old South African Thomas Schechter, a very frustrating day for him. There is his teammate, number 2, Tomasz Enge from the Czech Republic, still out in running, currently sitting in 5th place.
Enge not really that far behind, just over 6 seconds. Seems like eternity sometimes when you come over a brow and you can't see the driver in front.
Once again, Scott Sharp having his issues, and here it was a moment ago.
Oh, that back end is very light. Whoa! He's just sitting in the car right now going, miss me, boys, miss me.
That was the exact same corner where Ryan Briscoe, Danica Patrick, and then you go right on board with Giorgio Pantano. And at speed, you see just how quick their reflexes have to be.
And here we are in a separate situation going through the turn 9. Bucknam right there going around the outside, and Sharp was just the wrong place at the wrong time trying to get around the outside there. Very difficult for Scott Sharp right now.
I know we saw him yesterday in the pit area and we said, well, what do you think? He said, we're changing a lot of things, we're searching, but we are chasing, meaning we're chasing the car, trying to figure out the right setup. Scott Sharp's going to want to bring this thing home in one piece.
Very difficult to both him and his teammate. Both have not been very quick this week, and I'm sure they'll go back and start to look at it and try to find out how they can make themselves quicker, although Kosuke Masura right now has been running pretty well. No incidents so far, and currently running in 6th, so.
You saw there Scott Sharp getting by number 24, Roger Yasukawa. We go back to our leader. This is Tony Kanaan. Leads by 3.4 seconds. If you give Tony Kanaan 3.4 seconds, he may run one of those mini triathlons. That much time to him is absolutely dangerous. It is Kanaan out in front, and we'll wait and see. There you see Buddy Rice now just coming into view.
We talked about the fitness at the beginning of the race. Certainly Kanaan is one of the fittest guys that's out there. Almost looks like a little mini bodybuilder.
Watching practice yesterday, you made a comment that you love Buddy Rice's lines. Explain that.
So smooth, just seems to be able to go through the turn, and he almost looks like he's going slow, but that's when the cars are actually going through very fast, because he's making the car go through so nicely, so effortlessly, and just the ability and talent was showing through in him going through all the turns. I was standing around the whole racetrack watching many different drivers, and seeing right there, using the whole complete racetrack, beautiful lines, sweeping all the way through, getting the accelerator down, beautiful lines, hard into the braking, beautiful guiding the car along. It's all in one with the car when you do this, Todd, because what ends up happening is that you don't want to go sideways. When you go sideways, you're scrubbing off speed, and certainly Buddy Rice, along with quite a few other guys, were looking very strong, but I certainly loved his lines. So great, so smooth, talented driver.
14 laps to go. Fitness is a key. We remember last week, Dr. Jerry Punch talked about fitness regimens. Tony Kanaan may have one of the toughest ones, as well as Scott Sharp, Alex Barron. There's no couch potato in this series. Danica Patrick, they all work out intensely. But Scott, as we come down to 14 laps, you've already run 66 laps. This is really where it pays off.
This is where you're starting to really feel tired, especially for Patrick Carpentier, who does not have the water bottle, the liquid on board. Your hands are sore, your feet are sore from pushing on the pedals so much. I mentioned a lot of times that we talked about the guys taping their hands before they went out. That's so they don't create blisters as you run, but I can certainly tell you, it wears through your glove, wears through their tape in your hands. A lot of guys are going to have sore hands, sore blisters, and they'll be looking for a weekend off.
Carpentier doesn't have water, but he is Canadian. He's got that going for him as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, John Anderson down here, who runs the team for Dan Weldon. And John, what's the status of Dan Weldon as you headed back to the garage area?
We got the car back to the garage because we got a full tank of fuel. We couldn't work on it. We needed to get into the cell to see if we had a problem internally. But it looks like we've lost something in the drive to the fuel pump. So unfortunately, that's not a replaceable item unless it's an engine out.
Well, a tough day for Dan Weldon, his second DNF of the year, and the points leader cannot get closer to clinching here, guys.
Thank you, Doc. Tony Kanaan continues to keep the 7-Eleven sponsored Honda rubber side down here at Sonoma. Kanaan, your leader on lap number 67. Can he take it all the way to the checkered flag? Stay with us here on ESPN. Bringing him to speed on the points battle, Sam Hornish Jr. came in today with high hopes of catching Dan Weldon, but he had his problems early. Unfortunately for Sam Hornish Jr., he had to go behind the wall to get it fixed, but he did come back out losing many laps. He came back out on lap number 24. Meanwhile, Dan Weldon, thinking he had it all figured out, came in unable to get fuel. On lap 17, he comes back in. This time he does get fuel, or did he? Problems with the fuel gauge and the sensor. He's dead to rights in the middle of the track on the Y's. He goes back to the garage, in effect, his day being done. So, Scott, opportunities missed for both Dan Weldon to open up his lead and for Sam Hornish Jr. to take it up on him. And as we take a look at points as they stand right now, Dan Weldon has an 80-point lead on Tony Kanaan. His teammate Sam Hornish back 98 points.
Generally 50 points to win on the weekend with 3 races remaining. You certainly want to gain as many points here today as possible. I keep coming back to Sam Hornish Jr. though. Great job he did at St. Petersburg. An opportunity to finish up here, collect some points. Thought that Weldon might be a little bit quicker because he has got maybe a little bit more road course experience in big cars, but an unfortunate turn of events for Team Penske, not being able to take advantage of Danny Weldon's woes, which is something that doesn't happen at Andretti Green very often.
Kanaan has gained 40 points today on Weldon as of right now. We want to remind you, after the race, go to ESPN.com, and that's where you can chat with our winner, keyword IRL. That's ESPN.com, keyword IRL, and you can chat with the Argent Mortgage Indy GP post-race winner only on ESPN.com. As you are looking at our leader, that is Tony Kanaan. He may be on that chat with you if he can hold it together for another 11 laps.
Well, you watch his car right now. He's not even really using all the road. Doesn't seem like he's extending the car whatsoever. His last time around was 1 minute and 19 seconds. But he's starting to pull out a bit of a lead over Buddy Rice of just about 5 seconds. Both of them are Honda-powered cars.
As we look at our Toyota lap leaders, Tony Kanaan has moved to the front, 21 strong ones. Brian Hurst, 17. Ryan Briscoe, his 16 came early and he was done. Be an interesting situation, though. Buddy Rice maybe not known as the strongest road race courser, but as you pointed out, Scott, in our last segment, he has got the smoothest lines. He is one with the car, and again, he has an Indianapolis 500 championship.
A great driver, and as we watch here, Frank Keedy with a whole group of cars in front of him. We talked about this before when we saw a whole gaggle of cars up ahead. You try to under braking, as we saw Mir, just a little bit of a slide here, going through 6 up ahead. Frank Keedy himself.
Well, he's 4th in points, and I read that he's got to win all the rest of the races, and Dan Weldon must place 18th or worse, and their teammates. What's the likelihood of that happening?
That is a huge stretch, especially when this is so competitive, and you can rest assured that whatever the situation is with Danny Weldon's car, they're not going to really have too many more problems, you wouldn't think, for the remainder of the year. But as we're going back to the gaggle cars that we were looking at before, this is what the drivers love about road course racing. So much fun, trying to outbrake the person that's in front, keeping an eye on your mirrors, because when you maybe try something and you don't get it accomplished, as we see here right now, with both the Target Chip Ganassi cars racing each other, you actually have to be aggressive and you also have to be defensive. And all that time sort of trying to make the car go as quickly as possible. But Frank Keedy, Todd, certainly doesn't seem like he can make an impression on these guys up ahead.
I never thought in all my broadcasting career that I would say Dario Franchitti needs to get around a gaggle of drivers, but you heard it here first, folks. As we look at our Firestone telemetry, there you see the throttle dropping way off, tire temps coming up, Scott, and the gears working through it, as we pointed out at the top of the show, over 3,000 shifts during the course of 80 laps.
It's the exciting part, up over the hill now, on the brakes just a little bit to get through the carousel, turn 6 as we call it. You see he's just hesitating getting back on the throttle. Maybe the car is not exactly what he would like underneath him, but the sooner you get on the throttle, the more of an impression you will make on the car up ahead. Beautiful sight. All those cars snaking through there. Vitor Meira looked like he was also on his way to quit being on the pole earlier, but made a mistake just coming down to this turn here. Turn 9 in qualifying. Ended up getting sideways and cost him a half a second.
9 laps to go at Infineon Raceway. Tony Kanaan continues to lead. Buddy Rice sits in second, and it's a pair of Red Bull Cheever drivers with Alex Barron and Patrick Carpentier. We'll take our final break, find out who gets the checkered after this. Some of the beautiful sights here in the Sonoma Valley as we take a look at the top 5 with 72 laps complete. Tony Kanaan's on top, followed by Buddy Rice, Alex Barron, Patrick Carpentier, and the rookie Tomasz Inge.
A couple of Honda cars up front, a couple of Toyota cars, and then 5th place is Chevrolet. All the manufacturers having a reasonably good day here today. Love this nose cam on Dario Franchitti's car as he comes up right behind Vitor Meira. Watch how close Brian Herta gets underneath him every time. Looking at Koski Masura, cost him a bit of time there. Have to look in the mirror right now and make sure that Scott Dixon's not going to take advantage of it. But I mean, is he just coming in that deep every time, Todd? Or sometimes I wonder, am I just trying to give him just a bit of a nudge to sort of send him off a little bit under acceleration coming off the last turn?
And I thought running with a gaggle was a safe place, and apparently not.
Safer here than on the freeway, as I always say. Very difficult to pass this racetrack. We talked about that a little bit before as we see Dario Franchitti still sitting in the same spot, not being able to make an impression here, but that's the problem that all these guys are having right now. You try to just push the car a little bit further, a little bit harder through the turn. The car starts to slide across the racetrack, and the advantage you were trying for then starts to go away from you. Under braking, just trying to fill up the mirrors just a little bit of Brian Herta, who's ahead right there in the black and yellow XM car. See the Honda horsepower pull away just a little bit there from Scott Dixon. Beautiful weaving section through here. You rise over there and come downhill. It doesn't look as dramatic here on screen as it is driving it. Great section. Love this racetrack.
As they come over those curbing, I'll give you a little local knowledge. Our good friend Steve Page, who's president of Infineon Raceway, he happens to be a Cal Bear graduate. And you notice the color of those? Normally they're red and white. Well, those are the colors of the Stanford Cardinal. And if you know anything about this area, Stanford Cardinals and the California Bears don't get along too well. So Steve Page made sure that they were painted the appropriate colors.
With six to go, you see Brian Herta right there, always trying to get so close in that last turn. I'm going to watch that for the next few laps because he's getting so close to Koski Masura. I think Dixon's going to take advantage of it somewhere around here because he sees exactly what's going on up ahead, and he's going to try and take advantage of it. Getting right onto the front stretch. He loses a bit of time here through all this section here. Getting through the S's, which will come here very shortly after turn 7, which we're headed right now. All the gear shifting he's doing is through the lever. That's just right there on your right-hand side by the arrow. Watch his hand again. Hardly getting back onto the steering wheel because you're going through gears so quickly. Up to top gear, over the brow, we mentioned about 155 miles an hour, hard under braking. He wants to be close right here through section 9 because he knows that he has an advantage slightly. Right coming through 10 as we are now, coming up to 11. This is where Herta seems to always be just a little bit slow. Stay wide, and here's the mistake that he'll take advantage of, and absolutely in the right place at the right time, and does a wonderful job.
And he has got problems on the right front wing.
That was just getting a little bit too close for comfort.
So Brian Herta will try to nurse this thing around, and Scott, you called it. He stuck his nose in there one too many times.
Trying to get deep in there. Would he have been smarter to actually go in there a little bit wider, much as Dixon was doing, try to take advantage on the exit? You can see the disappointment on Michael Andretti's face.
He might need a bottle of his dad's finest.
Goes in here just underneath there. I was wondering if he's trying to nudge the gearbox of Koski Masura just up ahead to knock him off stride. But in turn, he ends up breaking the wing, and that wing's somewhere around $20,000. And I know what word that is, and we won't talk about it, but a $20,000 wing and some few points for Brian Herta, who will actually start falling back to 9th place now.
Maybe 2 bottles of his dad's finest. Hasn't been a completely bad weekend for Michael Andretti. His son, Marco Andretti, won the Infinity Pro race. And he's got a member of the team out in front. So you think it's all bad for Michael Andretti? Don't feel so bad for him because his man, Tony Kanaan, the defending IndyCar Series champion, is out in front with 4 laps to go. Kanaan bringing it around. Can he hold off Buddy Rice, Alex Barron, and Patrick Carpentier?
A little bit of an Andretti dynasty happening here. Michael Andretti won in a former Atlanta car back in the 80s. Mario finished second here back in 1970 to one Al Unser, who is the Grand Marshal for today's event. Marco Andretti, as you mentioned, Todd, winning the Infinity Pro Series race, and not an Andretti in the seat, but an Andretti car looked like it's headed to win this event.
Scott, we talk about the versatility of Tony Kanaan. He is the defending IndyCar Series champion. He has yet to win the Indianapolis 500. I know he wants to get that, but why is he such a good driver?
Talented, focused, fit, all the things that go with it. We saw a red and yellow flag to the right just as he was coming into the turn. That tells you there's debris on there, and that is actually from the contact between Herta and Koski Maserda's car.
There you see the lovely Michelle Noonan, Buddy Rice's fiancée. They are scheduled to get married this November, and she is looking on. I think this is something she's been waiting for a long time. Since Buddy's great run last year, it has been somewhat of a drought in 05. And Buddy Rice, an unlikely driver, running in second place. He told me just before he got in the car, I just want to survive. Second place is better than surviving.
Well, you talk about the spouses. As we watched his fiancée, Michelle, I can tell you firsthand knowledge that when things are going well, it's wonderful. But your wife lives through the highs and lows with you through your career, whether it's great or whether it's low. And we've all had the highs and lows in the career, but certainly they have the same feeling that we do, and they have to sit back and watch it.
Your leader, Tony Kanaan, 3 laps to go as he makes his way down through the downhill speed section. As a driver, Scott, you know what you've seen on the track thus far. You've seen incidents, you've seen mechanical problems from your team as well. What is Tony Kanaan thinking right now?
Make every turn perfect. Count them off as you go. You think about the turn that you're actually in. You see Tony's wife, Daniela, just turning around, looking at her husband, saying, no mistakes, please. Thinking about the mechanics on the car. And all Tony's worried about right now is hitting his turn-in points, hitting his braking points, making sure he's doing everything perfect. So he's going close to the edge of the road, but not using it all. Certainly not pushing the car past its limit or himself. Be interested to see when he gets out of the car. We talk about his fitness. Maybe just have a look and see how tired is he, or is he at all? Maybe the jubilation of winning this event will make all the pains go away.
His fitness regimen has been well documented. I doubt Tony Kanaan is tired. He's probably running on adrenaline and pure just exhilaration of putting his car into the winner's circle. If he can hold this, has he backed off, do you think, his normal race pace? Oh, we got problems. The 10 car, that's Giorgio Pantano. New to the series, not new to road course racing.
Mira just fed him.
Was there some contact? We don't know right now, but it looks like the front wing on Mira's car. Yes, it is. The front wing of Mira's car has been damaged, much like what happened with Brian Herta. And a
local yellow, so this helps out Tony Kanaan. It does not help out Buddy Rice.
Let's explain what a local yellow is. That means it's yellow in that section only where the accident is.
1 to go, local yellow, turn 1, driver's right. Should be okay, just be a little careful through there.
White flag is out for Tony Kanaan. 1 lap left at the inaugural running of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix. And look at this replay quickly. Riding on board with Giorgio Pantano. He's got to make sure that thing's in gear. It doesn't roll back down the hill. And look at this.
He got blindsided by the left-hand side right in there. You'll see Vitor Mira coming on the inside, just punts him off to the right. And as the car was sitting stationary, you saw a big wheel donut on the side of Pantano's car. Compliments of Vitor Mira.
Great officiating by the IndyCar stewards, giving it a local yellow. I'm sure Buddy Rice would have loved to have seen a full course yellow, would have bunched him up and given him something on the restart. That's not going to happen. It is Tony Kanaan bringing this car around. He has been flawless. He has been everywhere. For Kanaan, a man who started 3rd, he has worked his way up to 11th, and he is now bringing it home. Just 3 more turns for Tony Kanaan, and the victory will be his. Well, the folks at Andretti Green can go ahead and uncork a fine bottle of 2005 Tony Kanaan, your winner at Infineon. We'll talk to the winner and all the participants when we return to the beautiful Sonoma Valley. Tony Kanaan reigns supreme in California. It's a good day to be Tony Kanaan as he wins the inaugural running of the Argent Mortgage Indy Grand Prix. Your winner. The unofficial results have Kanaan getting the victory, followed by Buddy Rice, Alex Barron, Patrick Carpentier, and Tomasz Inga, the rookie, rounding out the top 5. Good run for Dario Franchitti as he started dead last. Scott Sharp will end up in 12th. And there you see the carnage at the bottom of the track. Weldon, Briscoe, Patrick, and Castro Neves, along with Thomas Schechter, unable to finish the race. Well, the point standings look like this with just 3 races to go. Dan Weldon maintains his lead, but it is down to 79 points over his teammate, the defending IndyCar Series champion, Tony Kanaan. Sam Hornish Jr. slides to 3rd, Dario Franchitti and Scott Sharp rounding out your top 5. Tony Kanaan has made his way into victory circle, and we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch on a very victorious celebration for all of Andretti Green, and especially that man, Tony Kanaan. Doc?
And Tony Kanaan about ready to climb out down here. A moment ago, he cued the radio, so this was for you, Danny, talking about his lovely wife, Daniele. He gives that big 7-Eleven decal a kiss, and now Michael Andretti climbs over here and gives him a big hug. Let's jump in here right quick, guys. Tony, congratulations. I know you're trying to get your helmet off. We're running out of time, buddy, but congratulations on a great run. What was the key to your success here today?
Well, great team effort. I think we had a great car, and we saved a lot of fuel. We had a great car, and I didn't have to push that hard. I knew people were going off. I wait for people to make mistakes. We saved enough fuel, and we won. So finally, I mean, I think